So you work with Roxanne?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thanks for that. I've got a shout out to Roxanne because Roxanne, she works with me.
Oh,
she's the one that got me with.
awesome.
With Lama.
Yeah.
Because she's done some work for you.
Yeah, she's also
past.
a past student. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, great student.
Yeah.
Done some good work, and then I bumped into her at the Auckland Awards, and she was carrying. She was carrying, and I thought, oh, wow, I love her voice.
Yeah.
You know, how life graduate, and then you go on to other bigger and better things.
Yeah, she's been really good for us, like at work.
Yeah,
like
she's real girl.
She's real good with people.
Yeah,
she's a people person, and like good at talking, like
and listen. She's a good listener.
Yeah, and you probably need that, especially with the different clients you might have if you have a practice, architecture practice, and you have different clients. Like, it's good to have people at the office that you can see that are better towards that client.
Yeah.
Because they're different personalities.
There's dynamics.
Yeah, exactly. So at our work, Roxanne, like, she's matched up with one of
the hard ones. Just fucking aulu ones.
But nah, she's good. She's really good. Gotta give her a shout out. I forgot to remind her that you were coming on. I'll tell her tomorrow.
So you're saying past student? So what?
I taught part-time at the School of Architecture.
Wow.
That's for the last 10 years, but I've just signed on to be a full-time lecturer, so I've just started last week as full-time. Yeah, but I do my side hustle, which is that architecture practice I've done by myself for 13 years now.
Yeah.
But we were always told, don't ever do it by yourself, because the amount of time that goes into it, and you've got a young family, and you've got so much admin, and you've got to meet people, and so while you're doing all that, the work's not ticking over. You got to have somebody at the office to tick the work over.
So are you doing it as a sole trader or a company?
Company.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the story with me is I graduated at a time that it was the height of the recession. So I couldn't get a job anywhere. And I had building experience. And so between that and very little drawing work and some teaching, I was able to kind of make ends meet and pay bills and stuff. But then I decided to form the company because I couldn't get a job within the company. And I had friends who graduated with honours as well, and they were bagging groceries at Mitre 10 Mega just to get some money and make ends meet. So everybody was struggling around that time too. So I just decided to form the company and then try and get my name out there and start there, and obviously start within the community first. So
we sort of touched on that on our guest. Yes, last night we talked about how, if things don't go to plan, then you got to have a plan B, and then it helps people to be more creative, to do something about it. Like, it pushes them into something that I know now, but it makes you go there and probably get opportunity out of it. Yeah. And if you're safe all the time, then you probably won't. Yeah. Probably won't happen.
I was also thankful. Mum and Dad's place was always there, so we stayed there. I had a son that was born in 2010, so we were really fortunate to be living at home and then trying to see what the plan A, B, and C were at the time. And there was, I think it was also for me a challenge, because I went in as a mature student at uni doing architecture, and I had a baby son, so I had to whamakua up here first and foremost and forget about your young ways, so it was all about trying to, and I got on the tools if I wasn't busy, so I was working as a builder, and then I'd ring uni to see if I can come in as a tutor, just anything, just to get by, and there were some spots there as well. So and I think it was around the 2011 Rugby World Cup that the School of Architecture was starting to notice that I could possibly teach some design papers. And also around that sort of time when I graduated in 08, the school wasn't really at a place where Pacific and Māori ideas were well received. There were some pockets of some tutors that did take an interest, but the most of them just it sort of went in one ear and out the other.
Did they reflect on the lack of numbers of Pacifica students coming through?
Yeah, there
From high
were.
school?
Yeah, there were a lack of numbers, but I mean, to be fair, also, architecture in New Zealand, as you probably will know, it's a middle class white man's industry. So there were some Māori and Pacifica, but very seldom, that were trying to pave the way for some of their own work, and that became an inspiration to me somewhat. But I decided too that I thought, oh well, I'm quite passionate about it. I could easily relate to Pacific and Māori ideas more than what the school was teaching from Europe or North America or other places far away. So I decided to write do a master's research. That's the old master's where you have to do research and write up 40,000 words. But I did the master's on designing with Pacific concepts, and that was a thesis I graduated with in 2008. And it became my philosophy in terms of my approach to architecture back then and still is today. Really, really encouraging to see the School of Architecture take a huge path towards the Pacific. They're starting to realize, wow, we've got students, non-Pacific and Pacific, that are interested in Māori and Pacifica ideas, and also using those ideas, traditional or new, mainly traditional, and coming up with some really, really cool modern designs. And we've had previous students of Pacific heritage that have won national awards based on those approaches, using Pacific and Māori ideas. So it's really encouraging. And it's good to be a part of that as well, because of some of these students I've taught also, and I've had a part to play. But there were people that were before me, not many. I mean, Dr. Albert Rafiti. Don't know if you know Albert. Yeah. So he graduated, probably the first Samoan I know graduated with an architecture degree in the early 90s. And then he shot off over to London and had a brief spell there working as an architect. But he's now fully academic, and he's left that side of practice too. But I just found some of his research to be really captivating. And that was talking about things about the whale and the va and waka and va'a and all those really, really beautiful ideas. And you give those ideas over to the student, they fall in love with it. And they start to, the interesting thing is they start to come up with part of their own experiences. And it, it becomes like a hybrid of two ideas. And then in front of them, they are able to design something really, really cool. But I think going over to the Pacific as well, because I took students there, as I mentioned before, for the past few years now. The last time we were over a couple of years ago was in Niue. And we've done Samoa, Tonga, Raro. We were supposed to go back last year, but obviously COVID. But Niue was different. Have you guys been to Niue? It is basically a rock out of the water. And it's, I think, from the sea level up to the top of the island, it's something like 30 meters or something.
In terms of tourism, I heard it's like untouched.
Yeah.
Untouched place.
When in all honesty, we took the students there 2 years ago, and I thought, when we landed, I thought there's nothing structurally, because obviously you're looking for architecture and all these cool designs and stuff, but there's just hardly anything there. But that wasn't where the beauty was. The beauty was in their natural landscapes, the cave pools, and it was just a real rugged island, And so we were able to sort of, it just takes about 40 or 50 minutes to go around the whole island, to go to all these spots where the tourists go, and swimming spots and cave pools, and eating unga, which is that massive coconut crab. And so we were able to design a brief around the Cook's Landing. And Cook's Landing was where Captain James Cook tried 3 times to go onto the island. I think the first 2 times the the native of New Orleans told them to fuck off. And then the third time they obviously got on.
Yeah.
But we used this particular site for the, we noticed the important significance culturally and historically. So we used that site to form a brief of, it might be a cultural centre or a museum. And we spoke to the premier at the time too, and he said, yeah, that's fine. We're looking at possibly developing that area to be some sort of tourist attraction. So yeah, so the students came back and they designed something really cool. And, I always go on about my Pacific students not topping these classes or leading the way, because it's always the non-Pacific that ends up acing the paper.
Yeah.
But
How do you find that when you teach our students here, you took them over to New Air and did all that stuff, and how do we bring that kind of thing back here in New Zealand when we've got different climate, different like it's not hot like the islands, it's really cold in winter, it's hot only 3 months of the year.
We were always, the thing was to always learn from the people that arrived here first. How did they deal with it? And I know Tangata Te Whenua obviously had the porch to their whare nui. It was kind of a transitional space between what's out and what's in. And I think that's probably some sort of climatic response as well. Also not, disrespecting that it is the body of their ancestor, as they mentioned in many articles that had written about the whare nui as well. So, but there are papers that we've posted here in Aotearoa as well. I think last year we couldn't travel, so we posted a brief in 3 sites. One was Russell up in Bay of Islands. Mm-hmm. The other was Puketutu here in Manukau Harbour, and another down Weymouth. And so similar brief, it was all about something that's a cultural building, and they might have things like the cultural centre, a memorial, a museum, some light commercial stuff. And then, trying to find out what the lay of the land was. Obviously, they've got to research who local iwi is, mana whenua. But then I'm also able to try and bridge the tangata te whenua and the Pacific or the Polynesian. Because, we all know that Māori also whakapapa back to, back in throughout the Polynesia as well. So
all the way back to Hawaii.
Yeah, I mean,
Hawaii.
Even Samoa too. So
I think it's also they adapt too, because they've killed off the moa to where they're to be warm in the winter. So as Polynesians, we can adapt to any environment, and the Māori are proof of that. Come to New Zealand, different climate, and they've adapted. So.
But it's really encouraging also to see that those concepts are still used today for contemporary buildings. And we had a bus tour a couple of days ago. I took the 3rd and 4th year students around Auckland. And we look at the contemporary modern Māori and Pacific architecture. And, Riri Thompson, the Māori architect, we looked at his house. There's that building Te Oro out in GI. We also went to Riri Thompson's fish in Otara, those 3... Ota.
Quite a bit, So where's that? So what building is this?
The big whale in the middle there, and then you've got the fish. He's split it up. You've got 3 sort of shelters there. Where the stages, there's a...
Oh, yes. So in the town, the town centre.
In the actual town centre itself, there's the fish tail over the stage area, and then you've got the body of the fish, which is the whale, over the main sort of area there.
Okay.
And then you've got the fish head of the sort of pointing out towards the car park. So, I mean, those, seeing those, and also, because I posted it on Facebook, I thought, look, it'd be really nice, because I'm trying to encourage Pacific and Māori to, to come to university and take an architecture degree. We're so used to lawyer and doctors, and there's nothing wrong with it, but I just thought we can add another string to our bow here by getting people to understand architecture. But other buildings as well that we visited were the Manu Samoa there in Māngere. There's one also at the University of Auckland. There's a modernist building there in Parnell called the Cumulus, and it uses the siapo concept for the facade or for the external walls of that building. But it's a really successful building in terms of the function. It's an office and car park. But it uses the siapo motifs on the outside. It's won a few awards. And we also went out to the Tongan church out in Favona. We were supposed to come here to Unitec to check out Liwi Thompson's Pukenga. And there's also another whare nui there as well. So there are pockets of Auckland that starting to have these, and they're probably 30 years old. We're starting to see that. But up until now, we're really starting to, there's a huge awareness around that you can actually design and build some really cool stuff using Pacific and Māori ideas. So.
And try to modernize it?
And modernising it,
and try to make it normal now? Like be part of the like what's in the design these days? And stuff?
Yeah, and also I think there's a realisation as well that we're the largest Polynesian city in the world. New Zealand effectively is an island in the Pacific. Its indigenous people are Polynesians, the Māori. So there are architect firms that are starting to take a strong hold on using these ideas and coming up with some really good stuff. Yeah, so it's really encouraging to see, and also to be part of the the students' journey and learning that stuff too. So
you know how you're saying that you're pushing and trying to get more Pacific Islanders, Samoans, Māori and that. What do you think is what's holding these kids back? Because like you said, when we were growing up in Aukupulanga, let's be a lawyer or be a doctor or, these kind of things, they've always pushed.
Right.
And I never remember any of the people at my church or anything talking about architecture being a possible career to pick up. What do you think was why did we never view it as a job that we could take up?
Yeah, I think our generation before us came here was always the norm, was the lawyer or, and there was nothing wrong with it. Our parents used to say, that gentleman there's a lawyer, my son or my daughter can be a lawyer, but it wasn't, or an engineer. It wasn't, architecture wasn't ever in that. And I think we're starting to see that turn now, which is really encouraging to see. But yeah, I think mum and dad just kind of opted for the safe, but now with technology and the internet, we're able to explore these other careers out wide and pursue them as well. So it's
that's a big thing now with architecture. It's changing because of the technology, especially with this new technology coming from overseas, like everything's in 3D.
Yeah,
and everyone using BIM. It's like.
Not those days of just getting the rule around and,
even the days of builders walking around with plans.
Yeah.
It's going. They're walking around with iPads.
Yeah. Everything's accessible. Yeah.
And everything's in 3D, so you can see the building exactly how it's going to be built on the computer screen before they start building.
Yeah.
And they check everything on the 3D model to see if everything's there. So it's to create less mistakes, but there's always going to be mistakes and stuff.
I think the mums and dads too never really saw a brown face as the architect, So whereas the lawyers and the doctors, we've had a few of those, the generation before us, and some of them go back to the islands and give back to the communities and live there. But yeah, I never didn't know any architects. But it's really good to see too that if they only knew that some of these flash buildings that they see around actually used ideas that they're really familiar with back when they were growing up in the islands, the waka and the whale, or the melo, le va. Because a lot of that, and a lot of the students these days really love that idea of the va and using it to design some really nice things. So yeah, I think we're starting to see something brewing, and it's really encouraging to see get our young people to pursue that as well. The other thing too was Unitec has a really nice, friendly appeal to, I guess, our Māori and Pasifika. Whereas this is my own thoughts too, I've always thought that they're not looking towards the University of Auckland. Maybe there's an element of fear in it, or, it's for brainy boxes and stuff. But then Unitec, they've got a name for it to be quite a practical rather than less theory. And the opposite was university, was more theory and less practical. Yeah, things like the teacher-student ratio was a lot better at Unitec than Auckland University. I mean, those are still some of the reasons that we see a lot of our brown people go to Unitec. But it's not I lecture there now. There's another Samoan girl, Dr. Kara Miyamula, Samoan. We graduated together, and I ended up doing a master's, and she must have did one sort of years later. Then she opted to do a PhD, so she's now lecturing full time. So that's two of us there now. Wow. And then you've got a Tongan girl by the name of Charmaine and Iliau, which we graduated, the three of us graduated the same year, and she's coming back, and she's also a doctor. So it's really good to see, we're starting to see a lot more sort of brown faces at the University of Auckland School of Architecture. Our head of school is Dr. Deirdre Brown. She was my master supervisor, and she's part Māori. We've got another Professor, Anthony Hoete, who's a Māori who's been living in the UK for 30 years. We've got Dr. Mike Davis, whose grandmother's Samoan, but he looks like a Palangi. And we've got other non-Pacific lecturers that have really taken a keen interest and written a lot on Polynesian Pacific architecture, like Dr. Bill Mackay, and these are previous Unitec lecturers as well, Dr. Mike Austin. And these are people that have tried to, they really researched the local scene and written countless papers about it and presented at countless conferences and written, a lot of their theses on the subject of Pacific architecture. So, yeah, we I think we're starting to see some changes, and I wouldn't say changes. I think it's just adding another string to the bow of University of Auckland School of Architecture as well. I think there's now 3 of those schools in Auckland: Unitec, University of Auckland, and AUT. But AUT is fairly new. I think they're in their 2nd year this year.
Oh, they're doing the degree now? Yeah. Oh, so now there's 3?
There's 3 now.
Oh, wow.
So, so some really interesting times. I couldn't say no to the role that I applied for at the end of last year. The role was to specialise in co-design with Pacific and South Auckland communities. And I'm quite heavily involved with the South Auckland communities. It's we are, it's in our DNA to be communal and be part of the community. So I thought, I couldn't say no. I wanted to sort of be involved and give back as well, and encourage our young people to come over to the School of Architecture and gain a degree.
Yeah, I think it's important you guys, up there, shout it out. Writing articles and doing interviews and getting out there.
Yeah.
Talking to the young ones,
Yeah.
Showing them that there's a brown face up there. There's a pathway for me to go up there.
That's today, because I think us as islanders, we're more like a seeing as believing kind of people. You can tell someone to go do it, but then there's someone. Oh well,
we're quite skeptical.
And that's exactly. We're quite skeptical as people, but to see someone like you, or you're telling us all these doctors, even when you see the word doctor in front of a Samoan name, or a Tongan name or a Niuean name, was something that
it's really encouraging to see.
It would be, and that might have been the reason why because we would, if we had if I don't know if it would have changed things, but if you had a Samoan person with Dr. coming and selling architecture as a possible career path, then you know, I would have maybe just tried to read a few more books. You know? But you will never know. You know, one can only hope. But
Part of one of the committees I'm involved with at uni is outreach, and not that I started it at uni. I've also, every time a friend said, "Oh, look, at high school where my son goes, would you like to come and talk?" You know, that was always, of course, you know. So I went to the recent one at De La Salle there as well, and there was a lot of parents taking an interest, because you know, seeing another brown face there and goes, "Oh wow, that sounds really interesting, what he's talking about." And then, you know, they bring their kids along, and they're looking at the programs and talking to you about, you know, how much you get paid and all this.
Well, that's the how long and how much is either.
Yeah, it's cool that it's starting to change, PACIFIC is starting to make moves in the field of architecture now. And I guess for me, like, being in the industry for 20 years, doing what I do, it's like, okay, that's cool, but the next level has to be getting these big projects, like us getting these, being one of the top firms in New Zealand and doing some corporate work, you know. I think that will be the next level.
Yeah, there's I mean, you guys would know there's a lot of eyes on the Pacific from international aid, and Samoa's a melting pot at the moment of aid coming in from China, Germany, Japan, America, Australia, New Zealand. So everybody's contesting that space, eh?
But not even that, not even like from funds, like from clients, from real clients with real money.
Yeah.
Getting into them and doing work for them. Yeah.
The thing I struggle with, like the clients as well, because I try and propose the ideas of, you know, this and that, and it's all kind of Pacific and Māori related. And some of them kind of, you know, but once you show them some precedences or some examples, it goes, "Oh wow, that looks really interesting, and that looks really cool," and then they start to sort of feel for what you like and what you can design and stuff like that. So
the example of you know, when I went back to Samoa a couple of years ago, and you see the airport there, and you know, if you just have to take one look at it, and you know that a lot of Samoan designs, you know, the whaleo and all that, it's been incorporated into the design of the airport, and you go, that's how you take part of our heritage and part of the Chinese, part of the modern, you know, stuff, and you know,
you fuse it,
you fuse it and put it together, and that's what it can look like, you know, and it just feels like, you know, it is Samoa, but it's a modern kind of look, you know. So that's that's an example to me, or like you said, the building in Mangele, you know, the
whale there.
The whale there. You know, when you go in there, you're like, man, this is it's, you know, this is how the one that's on K Road, where I used to go visit with my dad back in the days, would go do the whakao downstairs, and then, you know, you'd go up for either for a social or a kusingai ngō or something like that. And then, you know, that's the old design, and then that's when you go look at the one in Mango, you go, that's what they went from the 70s or whenever that was built, and this is what we can move. So it's like we're evolving as well, eh?
Yeah, and culture is always non-static and evolving. So, I mean, I'm sure architecture does that as well. I mean, it does that by nature. Some of these buildings, the Malta Samoa and the university whale, have you been to the university?
Yes.
I mean, it looked like it gone through the mill just to get it translocated here. In 3604, the New Zealand building regulation, all that stuff. But what you have is a really successful space. It's a contemporary space, but you still identify it as the whale, because obviously with the roof, the lashings and the stuff like that. But if you look behind the lashings too, you see the Bomac brackets, the steel brackets, and the posts are in these steel sleeve shoes because there's a car park underneath it.
Oh yeah, and all that's coming through.
Yeah, and then you've got rubber different texture on the roof, which is the rubber shingles. You got plywood ceilings and bifolding doors. I mean, this is not in Samoa.
No.
That was never. But like, there's that climatic response too. You know, you're responding to the climate as well. And then we've never had the ridge lifted up so that there's an automated louver system up the top there where air can.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just to get it here to that. But I argued in my thesis that, look, nobody from the Pacific can come here and say that's not a whale because it's got this and it's got this and this. You've got the community there that can revalidate that authenticity, and that's all that matters. There's
So if it looks like a whale is doing its function, then it is.
yeah. And only the people the user group, which are also Pacific people, only they can revalidate that, you know, rather than having someone think, oh, we didn't have that in Samoa. But I mean, if you look at Samoa now, you've got corrugated iron, you've got nails. Yeah, we never had that way back.
It's interesting you talk about bringing our culture and architecture back to New Zealand, because I always thought the opposite. Because I always thought going to Samoa and building a house that's catered for us New Zealand borns to go back to retire, and we're not used to the heat. So having a house that's eco-friendly, like the windows in the right places, so you can get the cross ventilation, all that stuff to, you know, so you don't use power, you don't use any aircon. Like I always thought that. So I always thought I'll go look at the homes over there in Queensland, because they've got, you know, same sort of climate. See what they're doing and adapt those same houses over there. But that's how I.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some buildings, some new commercial buildings that are in Samoa standing there. But it also looked like it was something that's designed from halfway around the world, and it just gets rubber stamped around the island. And it's not responding, you know, you're using artificial lighting, you're using artificial ventilation. And it sits next to the beach where it can receive the sea breeze. You know, so it's just, that's what happens when you design something and you bring it here and then, just build that there. And then you look around the back wall and it's got loads of air conditioning units sort of dotted the...
That's the thing, the air conditioning industry is big in islands, and I think it shouldn't be.
No, yeah.
If you design it right.
Yeah, that's right.
Is it possible though to design? Something that you don't need air conditioning? Because
it's always like a good designer or a good architect will always cater for where the wind comes from.
Yeah.
Where's the sun? Where's the north point? Where's the breeze coming in? Where's the trade winds? Are there cyclone areas here? All that sort of stuff needs to be considered right from the start before you actually put pen to paper. So
so I'm a newbie. I don't know if it is possible to build, or
definitely. I mean, our ancestors did that. I mean, they knew when to orientate it, and I often say that they weren't just whale builders. They were actually philosophers of space. They knew about where should they come through, where the guests are, if you're the host, where you sit. All governs around the whale wolele, where you sit. If you're a li'i, where you sit, where kula whale. You know, all those things too. We're starting to see, and I talk about this to my class, if they design these new buildings, okay, what happens if there's a ava and a ava whawhiloai in the middle? Where the visitors sit, it's rude if you go and say tulo every time you want to. So, all those ideas there, even though, and I find them real modern as well, we can still use that today. So
that's right. I'm not saying we move back to Samoa and build a traditional whale for it, but we can build a modern house, but make it so it's conditioned to the weather.
That's right.
To the conditions over there.
There's a house there I saw, a designer, but one of the local ladies there and her husband is French, commissioned a local architect who did a really nice open plan whale. But it was a open whale. Instead of it being elongated or circle, it was just a square one, and it was just on these posts. Everything's some lash. You've got a huge roof, and then you've got the bedrooms kind of tucked back. But this open space is just like your normal whale where you receive people, but it's a really open, modern space. And so you can still use those traditional ideas to create something quite modern and still adapt to change, 21st century and all the modern lifestyles and cultural lifestyles too. So
It's crazy, man. So how do, I know we're going back a bit, but so you said that, because I know you had a life before architecture. How did you come to, were you a builder before? Did you always have aspirations of being an architect?
Didn't you, so we don't know what an architect does. I mean, I only found out in my later years, But no, I grew up, wanted to be Michael Jordan. I wanted to play in the NBA. My heroes growing up were the MJs was Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, and Michael Jones.
Yeah, that's
all the MJs.
I'm going to say about 95% of our kupulanga will be in agreement with that. But probably Michael Jones first, though. That's they're all in the same.
And wanted to be a policeman as well. But architecture came in when I started playing rugby. And then seeing the world, with the Samoan team. And then finally got hurt in 2001 and went through some depression as well, went through some mental health stuff. Because it was my livelihood, I was playing France at the time, being a professional, and nobody can beat that profession, You train twice with the team a week, you play with them, but then the rest of the time, it's all yours, in a foreign country like France. So it was really, and you got to see some really cool forms of architecture around the world, in Japan and North America and Europe. So
you just like seeing these buildings?
Yeah, I was quite in awe of it, but I didn't think, I want to be an architect, because I was just going, wow. You see bullet holes on an old building in Berlin, in Germany, because, I was one of those people that just thought, wow. They shot this, Archaeology was another thought. Wow, I was really interested in historical stuff.
So were you going down Indiana Jones instead of Michael Jones? Kind of.
Yeah, it was just interesting. But then when I remember saying, well, man, what am I going to do now when I got hurt? Couldn't go back to playing rugby and the building, but I wanted to change, and it didn't take long until the architecture light bulb flicked on. And
so was that the thing that took you out of that dark place that you mentioned?
Yeah, I was paralyzed from the neck down against Fiji in that first 3 minutes of the game in 2001, and I was starting at that time. I was enjoying my rugby. I was looking forward to another season in France. And life just did a 180, and I thought, man, I'm 30. Got hurt when I was 30. I thought, man, I had plans to retire at a certain age, and I had still my goals of making the Rugby World Cup 2003 with Samoa, but it just. And I had this premonition when I was in France too that something's going to happen, and I tried to push it aside and all that. It was almost like a voice telling me it was going to happen. And then that last game out of that tour that we had, it was quite a long tour. We played the All Blacks that year too, and then we had that Pacific Rim with Japan and Tonga, Fiji. Yeah, just that last game too. Yeah, just came like in a flash. So I gained conscious, and I was I couldn't feel anything from the neck down. I saw the stretcher come, and I thought, oh, fuck that, I'm not getting on that. And then when I had conscious, I had all these pins and needles, and I thought, oh, that was the second time it happened. I thought, nah, I'm in trouble here. And then I was thankful that I was able to get the feelings back. But when I stood up, I had no legs, and so I was kind of carried off the field. So so my mind was just racing. I didn't know where I was, man. I was just going, man, what the hell? And then lying in the hotel room, because we flew out the next day. That whole thing was just gangi, and just, oh man. I couldn't believe it. Why does it have to happen to me? All that sort of. I came to New Zealand and I saw my neurosurgeons, and the surgeon said, "Nah, you'd be stupid if we fix you up." The first level that happened to me, I had to have a bone fused in there. So this time it was the next level up that ruptured inwards, and it was rubbing against the spinal cord. He said, "No, we'll take that away, put a little stainless steel ball and socket in there, and we'll get you moving again. But you can't, no more rugby." Yeah, so I came back home and go on the couch of mum and dad. Ricky Lake, I think, was on. Well, man, no, something has to happen. Something. Years after, I thought, man, maybe it was supposed to happen. This new life I'm trying to, pursue. And so I thought, oh no. O le wo koe inga, le wo koe alue, university koe abilisio.
Yeah.
So then I applied in at the University of Auckland in 2001 and got in as a mature student, special admission.
Oh,
So I think
do you remember the process? Like what you needed to have? And
a portfolio, and I think they looked at more life experiences.
Oh, okay.
And obviously I had a few. And a lot of my drawings as well was all about sport and some other stuff, some mepepelos that I did last minute to just put. So I got in, and I remember one of the papers here demanded that you write an essay, and I thought, man, there's just no way I can write an essay. It's been a while since high school, and none of my essays made any sense. I had, lectures going like this, reading it. And then, they've got those short courses that you can take to improve all that sort of stuff and try and get you going. So the first year or two was quite tough in terms of the academic side of things, but I found it really interesting. And I think that took me out of the dark place that I was in at the time, because I remember sitting at the back of the bus after one lecture in that first few weeks, 327 bus, and I remember that bus because it goes straight to mum and dad. And I thought, fuck this. I'm at the back of the bus with my legs up on the double chair, looking outside the window. But the thing that really helped me was the work that was asked of me to do, because it really put my mind outside the square and really thought about how to do these but the work wasn't hard. It was just the time management I found. And I'm really happy I went in as a mature student, not as a fresh out of high school, because I probably would have.
I was going to say that, because, people, I find, especially people that go back to school or do tertiary later in life, you tend to see that they're more focused because they've done that. They've done that little dash. When you go straight after school, you're still whakaalo mea, but when you've gone and packed a few bags or shopping bags and that, what you. Hey, I know what I've got to do now.
I had my Palangi young student friends who said, "Lama, let's go to the shadows and have a few." I said, "Oh, I've done all that.
Yeah, that's right.
I've got an assignment to you tomorrow." But you're right. Yeah, just felt like, it's really great being focused. You've done life experience because you're able to focus on your work.
I saw that too when I started my first class at Unitec. We had older students in the class. We had two ladies. They're middle-aged ladies, but they're the ones that are doing all the work, answering all the questions, put their hand up, and
they do really well.
I suppose at the back just waiting for the bell, waiting for the class to finish and go play some basketball at the gym.
I found that when I went to teachers training college, and we had with teaching we had a lot of people that had gone and had kids and come back, and we had one of our students. She was a senior sergeant at Auckland Police. And the thing is, when you have your group assignments and that. You know, I feel sad for saying it, but man, because they come and they pull
lead
out
it.
their coloured, folders and okay, we're gonna do this and that. I'm gonna get an A for this, and they're probably gonna put it up about 10% effort because these people, they're focused, and like you said, life experience, is really important, and that's why those, mature students, I wonder what the stats are, but I'm pretty sure they'll be really high because,
you're right. Yeah. Saoli, it's they're the ones that ask the questions. They're the ones that get the assignments done properly, and they're the ones that the tutors respect more because they relate more at that sort of level, maturity level.
Right. Yeah.
And so no, I was really thankful at the time too, and not only that, but out of the whole mature students, and there was a few at my year, I was probably one of the youngest. Oh. There was some grandmothers in there too. There's just nothing to do. They just want to challenge themselves. They're at that age where look, kids are growing up. They move out the house. I just come in here. I want to challenge myself and look for a different degree. So
it sounded like that group when you said you graduated with two. I think it sounds like three of you graduated from the same class, and you're all lecturing, or was there something about were you all coming up together when you were studying, or we just because was it like you had like a really good support network? Because it just sounds like you were like when you said you all graduated together at the same year.
We. So the other fourth person I forgot to mention was a Tongan guy, good friend of mine, Semisi Portuine. He's a West Auckland guy too, and we've done all our masters kind of at different times. I think I might have been the only one, or Charmaine and I are the only ones that went straight from the undergrad straight over to postgrad, and then we went and worked, and she went and worked in Australia, and I stayed behind, and Kara did some other stuff before then. But Semisi's probably the only one that's still practicing as an architect here in Auckland as well. So, and we've been trying to get him to come because he's really quite knowledgeable in the Tongan ideas of architecture and tā, and so he's another one on the list that we've been trying to pull in for academia. But he's very multi-talented. He started off doing CAD, the course CAD, and he was a scholarship from Tonga as well. And so that's those are the kind of the four that I know that we've been keeping quite close, and we know who's doing what. But I think you can count on your hand how many PIs, especially my year, and also Māori as well. I mean, it was probably about 10 of us all up.
It's still the same now?
No, I think we're starting to see the numbers grow, which is really encouraging. I think Unitec may have a lot more PI students at their architecture school as well. But I don't know whether they're going through some restructuring and stuff, but we're starting to see some sort of coming towards Auckland Uni. And I think the school wants to promote it out that way to Auckland Uni. So we're starting to see some numbers growing.
When I think about you and when I looked you up and stuff, like, you've done so many things in your life, like architecture's the last thing you've done, but you've done so many things before that. I mean, you played basketball. Yeah. You were representing Samoa for basketball too. And that's your first love, huh?
Yeah, it's always, and I've got an 11-year-old boy too that his mum doesn't want him anywhere near a rugby ball. And I said, well, that's fine. The rugby ball will probably find him before anything else.
So I guess I'm saying, like, when you had your injury and you did architecture, to me it seems like you're always going to find out what you're going to do anyway. You're that type of person to concentrate on one thing, go hard, then the next thing you go hard. Yeah. And then if it's not architecture, you might go hard on something else, Yeah,
I've always had that tunnel vision. And my mum and dad noticed it about me quite earlier on too. But I've always, some people call me a perfectionist. But I've always found a passion about something and I stick with it. And even with basketball, man, there wasn't a space on the wall and ceiling where a basketball poster never covered.
Yeah.
I was that guy. And I had aspirations to be basketball player. I didn't know what. You're in the back, the ring out the back of the house, shooting those free throws, saying, "Oh, yeah, imagine all the big crowd here," and you're shooting at last. And that's what happened in Samoa when we made the finals against Tonga, I think, in the Oceania Basketball Championship, and I did the last shots there, and I thought, it all sort of came back.
You've been your whole life for that. Because we always play pickup ball, and we always do the battle countdown in your head, or I need these 2 shots to win the game. So and you've been living, or you've always been practicing.
I've always been a dreamer, man, and that's my big encouragement to our young Pasifika and Māori. Don't let anybody, dissuade you from your dreams, man. Because I dreamed many things, and Dad being Dad was always quite the skeptic as well. But it was almost like I'm trying to do this for me, but I'm always trying to fulfill what or always thinking about. Oh no, he said I couldn't do it, and he said if I graduated, rather than no, when you graduate. It's things like that. That it's always the voice of your father or your mother that kind of talks to you at the back of your mind, saying to, or push yourself too. So that was a huge influence on my, just anything I can find interesting or passionate about.
So you went from basketball. Was basketball big out south? What? Because I knew there was a basketball culture, but for me, like growing up, it always felt like it was only the Mamungas that were the big ballers,
Yeah, and I almost, because I'm Presbyterian, I almost became a Mamunga because I was so in love with the basketball, and all my good mates were all Mormons, and then, but Dad kind of rolled his eyes and thought, oh no, I think you need to step back. But no, I bored with, I played for Counties Manukau in the early 90s. And that was a 2nd division team, and we had a couple of American imports, and I think we bored with George and Joe Sevilla, and that was kind of our generation.
Yeah, there's a big name.
We played Robson.
Yeah,
the Valley Boys.
I was about to say that, because I'm PIC as well, So Rob was our representative from out west, and it was funny because, we had. This is when I first saw. We just opened up our church in Ranui, and I remember Ironi's brother Inglangi came, and he came down, and he was like, he's just built like a prop, and he done this dunk off the backboard, and I went,
Ironi's brother?
Yeah. So Ironi had his brother Inglangi.
Younger or?
I think it was his older brother, and from all the stories that people talk about, he was the more talented one, athletically, but he went over to. He went over to America and he played college football over there. And I just remember him, like everyone was saying, bro, look at the size, but he can move like Ronnie, but he's built, he's stock here. And when I saw the guy do the thing, I was like, oh, where's this guy been, And this, he could be playing with Rob Tavita and that, so,
Yeah, no, there was a few others as well from out west that we always sort of get together or play against. But basketball was definitely the first love, and whole family moved in Samoa in the 92, and then I tagged along, and there was no basketball there apart from the Mormons, and then it wasn't long, and then the village boys grabbed me and said, look, we need someone to jump up for the lineouts and grab us some balls, and I said, no, I'm not interested, blah blah blah. Anyways, then a year later, I started rugby. In 94, and then the following year I was on standby to cover the lock injuries in the 1995 Rugby World Cup for Samoa. So, and then Fats brought me over here to play for Karaka. I met Fats at the RSA.
Is that the first time you met him?
That is the first time I met him.
And he just approached you because you were tall. I need a new lock.
Well, he knew I was playing because I think Samoa's a small place and I stand out like a sore thumb over there. And he must have heard that, he's got potential, and said, come over and play for our club rugby in Karaka, which is South Auckland County's manager. And then I came with another Samoa rep, Va'a Vitali, who's a halfback.
Because I remember that's what he was doing. Well, what Peter Fats was doing, he was bringing guys from Samoa over and putting them in all these clubs.
Yeah, just to get some experience.
Down the line, and stuff like that.
Well, there's that big controversy when he bought, I think he bought like something like 10 people, like some from up here in Auckland, and that for the team that he was coaching down the line. And I think there's a bit of backlash because I think locals were missing out. But he had brought all these other guys into play.
For what club was it?
I'm trying to. I think it was one of like a second or third division team. And I remember them talking about it now. But Fats was just trying to do best by get the team up. But yeah, I remember that. That's what Fats was doing.
Yeah, he's been a huge influence for the newbies and some of the boys at the time that were Manu Samoa, trying to get them over here to play, just so that the standard of rugby starts to go up. And and then there's pathways into, provincial teams as well as the international team, Samoa. So
you never played? Did you ever play first 15 rugby and all that?
I did play first 15 for Otahu.
Oh, okay.
Because I went from De La Salle to Otahu College. And once again I said no at first, and then the coach approached me a few times, and then I ended up. But yeah, it was just. It was basketball for life. I just didn't know. I think that attitude I had was the attitude that my son had this year with rugby. And as soon as he had his first fitness run with rugby, he turned to me and gave me the man, if looks can kill. And I started to look away, just so that I don't encourage him to feel. But I think they were doing Henny Muller's, the zigzag, and it was. And he looked really, but he hasn't found his passion, and who am I to push that envelope? He can find it later on, but he loves his basketball.
Saying that basketball has taken off in New Zealand,
which is really, really great to see. Well, I know Samoa too. The basketball's really taken off there. Yeah.
Well, we done the multimedia stuff for what was the nation's basketball comp? Was it this
the one on the Trust?
Yeah, the Trust.
The Polynesian.
Oh, the Polygam.
No, that's Robson's one. Eh?
Yeah.
No, this one was Sefo, didn't he? So Sefo, he done one where it was all the Pacific.
Yeah.
Yeah, done at Trust Stadium.
That's not long ago. Eh?
Yeah,
a few months ago.
Yeah. So we done the videos and putting it out on the social media and that kind of thing. And what we found was just the amount of sheer numbers of kids playing basketball. Because we've always loved basketball, and then when you see, you always think, man, I wish we had avenues like this before. Because we only came across basketball when they started playing it on TV3. I'd always watched it because my older brother, we'd always been fans. But then when you get that exposure, and you get to watch it record it, and you watch it all the time, like, man, Michael Jordan, Clyde Drexler, and that, and you see these kids today, they've been taught all the fundamentals from an early age. Yeah. Hey, us, we're just too busy trying to elbow each other.
And they've got access to the internet, YouTube and all that, man. There's some really well-skilled kids out there. And they jump higher, stronger, run faster.
And that's the crazy thing, because we were talking about how world basketball recently, if you look, Team USA's been losing. They lost to Nigeria.
Really?
Yeah, they lost to Nigeria. Time? Oh, sorry, last week. But they lost to France. 2 days ago.
That's their first Olympic.
Beat Iran
today. They beat Iran.
Oh,
they'd really be in trouble. All right, but I'm saying, like Michael, the thing about what basketball's done, the Dream Team '92, when exposed the world to these guys, all it's done is brought the world up to their level, way. And then you see all these teams. all these young kids that are learning all these fundamentals from the start that don't pick up those bad habits. You see when like do you watch much of the NBL? The NBL, the New Zealand competition?
Yeah, because it's on late at night. Yeah,
yeah. So we've been watching games, and you just see these, like there's that 17, 18-year-old that's playing for was it for the Huskies? Yeah,
There's two of them.
for
There's a
Auckland.
16-year-old.
And mate, and they're just at another level, you know. And you know there's so much more kids these days that are going to play college ball and
Yeah, all those starting to open up too, eh? Because there's a lot of I don't know if you guys know Bronwyn and Greg Davidson. They had a kid there. What's his name? He's playing for some NBL team.
oh,
But he went on a basketball scholarship to the States, and now he's back here, and I think they're developing him as a breaker player.
oh, okay.
But I saw him doing NBL. He was playing NBL, and he's got some really good talent out
So
there.
he's going through the New Zealand system.
Yeah,
Yeah, which is pretty rare because what we've had basketball people on, like the system is probably not as 100% as it should be, and we mentioned Sefo. The reason for the Polynesian tournament he's got is to sort of like
open up some doorways.
Yeah.
circumvent the New Zealand system
Yeah.
and just go out and do their
I
own.
see.
So
Yeah,
like offer an alternative route.
Yeah,
because
alternative routes.
the normal going through, you know, you think, you know, just like it should be like the rugby system, and you play for Auckland, play Northern Regions, or you know, and you get selected, you should be playing for the like junior or Tall Blacks and that. But well, what they were finding was politics. Hey, like Tim was saying, that politics comes in, money's another thing, you know, and there's because. You know, they've got different unions, or you know, you got the Auckland, North Harbour, and they're not together. So you find that some are really well run, and they're the guys that usually get pushed forward, and the ones that aren't getting, you know, that don't have proper leadership. These guys, you know, they might be just as good, but they're getting left behind because they're not being exposed to it, you know. And I found that that's what was happening with us, or you know, with Pacific Islanders. You know, there's guys that might be playing at, you know, a school like James Cook High, or you know, one of these smaller schools that you wish were, you know, that are just as good as these kids that are at Rangitoto and that, but they're not getting the exposure because of, you know,
there's politics. And what about the? I mean, those. So you guys are sort of more trying to promote it to scouts, that maybe they can have a look into the scouts are able to have a look into the.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's what I think with Sefwin, that I think that might be the end goal. Is that instead of, you know, you have
Going
to
through
go
the New Zealand basketball.
He's going direct to America. He's looking for like tournaments. He's talking to coaches over there that do tournaments, and he's doing his own fundraising, sending his kids over, try to get opportunity, come back if they don't, and blah blah blah. So yeah, but a lot of it is the money side of things. So the organization won't pay for the kids to go. You got to pay yourself, and if your parents can't afford, then it doesn't matter how good you are.
Unless you get a scholarship, but then that scholarship for one or two people, rather than you know, if you got more people that are worthy of going over there.
That's it, you know. And I think New Zealand basketball is at that stage now, like where it is getting much more exposure, because you start hearing about all these kids that are going. You know, they might not be Division 1 schools, but you know, they're still getting a free education, which is, you know, is just as important. You know, because you know, I think a lot of people need to realize there's only 350 players, people that they can play NBA, but like. One thing about playing basketball, like there's so many leagues around the world where, hey, you know, Iran playing basketball today. I'm sure they must have a decent league there. Do you hear about the Israeli league? You know, that's the Turkish
where you can
league.
actually make money.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like
or
us,
living out of it.
Yeah.
We took this podcast down to Wellington, and one of our guests, Brendan, he played for Wellington Saints back in the days. He's from Wellington.
Brendan, what's his last
name? Blank. And he played. I think he played Tall Blacks too. He played Tall Blacks as well, but he's a perfect example of that. He went to university in the States. Didn't go to the NBA. He went to Europe and played the different leagues for his whole career before coming back home. So, and he's saying like, hey, that's a pathway. I mean, that's something. You get paid. I mean, it's a professional. But it makes sense because the American imports come all over the world. They come here to New Zealand if they can't make it in the NBA, so.
And there's a few there. Eh?
Yeah.
I'm always wondering why Stephen Adams doesn't like the New Zealand basketball setup too, because it probably never received support. Or?
Well, no, we had some. I don't know if do you know? There's a program called Bakery Runs. This guy improvised. He runs it. So he was a coach. He was the assistant New Zealand coach, and he kind of gave us a background story. So he came on the podcast too, and we brought that up because we were like, "Hey man, what's the beef with Stephen Adams?" And and he said it was because he got treated really badly when he was
by New Zealand
basketball.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was politics as well.
Yeah.
So he so he got selected, but when he couldn't afford it, they cut him.
Oh, yeah.
They cut. Hey, that was the background story. Even though he was, the best player in the team, they cut him because he couldn't afford the fees to travel to a tournament. And so they brought in someone else, and he this is what Tim said. Not that it was hard for him because he had come from Rotorua, and he had made his own way there.
Yeah.
And like they were going to cut him straight away because he came in late, but he'd come all the way from Rotorua to wherever the trials were, and then once they realised that he wasn't, he didn't have the money, they cut him.
Wow.
Yeah,
but he was lucky because he had support from Kenny
McFadden.
Yeah, that's right.
He's the one that was training them by himself.
Yeah.
And making them get these opportunities to go to the NBA, and that's what happened. So he didn't go through the New Zealand system; he went through Kenny.
So that's the alternative route that maybe some of our young people might take.
And that's exactly what Seth was trying to do with his Polynesian basketball tournaments he does every year.
You know, the other thing that Tim said was that Kenny, he had taken a New Zealand team out to I think it was the Pacific Cup or something, and they were undefeated. And I think they might have been in Australia or something like that, and they came back. And so he thought he was going to get the New Zealand under-18s job. But someone else got it.
Oh.
Yeah, and he was like, "But I've just done all this, and you've come in and put this." So I think that kind of they went, "Oh, okay, then there's gatekeepers here, there's gatekeepers around here." So so us, got people like Seth on that, and Stephen Adams got his training, his academy, and there's Hoop Nation, and it just looks like people are like, you know what, if you're not gonna help us out, we're gonna go help ourselves,
And look where he is, eh?
Yeah.
Well,
it looks like he's a Memphis Grizzly now, eh?
Yeah.
So it looks like I'm gonna have to make that my second team now.
So Memphis.
Yeah, no, so he got traded. I think he got traded today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got traded.
From
the Pelicans.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, so who was it? It was him, Eric Bledsoe,
and
a couple of picks.
The European guy.
For the center from the Grizzlies.
Was it Valanciunas?
Yeah. So, I just saw it in the afternoon. I don't know, it was confirmed though, eh? So, kind of fire Steve Adams, But you know what? It's good for the NBA because that means a lot of kids are going to have to go get new Stephen Adams jerseys, NBA,
Can't keep up, eh?
Yeah, that's right.
Finally buy one in next year. I know he's going to the Lakers.
Oh, man, he'd be perfect for the Lakers, He's just a big body for LeBron and that's a kid,
How are you finding the modern NBA, like with the super teams? And
no, it's good. I mean, I never watched it religiously like I used to before, but obviously life takes over and lots of other stuff happening. But yeah, I've always seen it as something like a relaxation, just to watch and maybe have a couple too. And I still hang out with good friends of mine that are really, we grew up loving the sport, and we still got that love for it too. Last tournament we played in was the Masters, the World Masters that was around 2000.
It was here, eh?
It was in Auckland hosted, World Masters.
I think Danny he was playing rugby.
Oh yes, yeah, and that was a big thing too.
Yeah, it was well organised.
Yeah.
We had a pretty good team. But we
Robson,
chucked our team.
Robson in that team, or
Robson was playing with George Sevilla. I think they played in the A grade. They put their team in the A. We put ours in the C. We knew we weren't up to and we were starting to play Ka'ololeanga, because your brain's telling you, you should be there, but your body's saying, hey, hold on, mate. You start doing it. But it was fun. But my ankle, I've got arthritis on my ankle, but I was dragging the ankle. It just, so we finaled with Guam. Guam beat us. All our Mormon boys. We had Winitana.
oh yes,
And all our Mormon boys, because our final was on Sunday, they all said, no, we can't play
oh,
Sunday. So all the non-Mormon, because there's only 6 of us, we had 1 sub. And so we really struggled against Guam. And our Mormon brothers were up on the stand with their fusiuas and they're going, oh, yeah, but it was fun. It was, it was really good to get back into training, 3 times a week, and then tournament time. It was just it was going back to when back in the day. So
back to the counties.
Counties,
Counties.
yeah.
How was that season? That county season? Do you remember playing ball?
No, I don't
Was
remember.
that second
Div, but we had Brett Goebel, Paris's dad.
Oh,
He was our coach as well. But we had Dylan Boucher's older brother, Greg Boucher. We had Sean Tautali, he's an Otara boy. We had a couple of American imports. So that was a good team. It was a really good team. I think we did well, but I don't think we made the finals. But we had a lot of the Mamunga boys were on our team. So.
well, there's a NBL team from out based in Pukekohe now, eh?
That's
Bulls,
right,
Yeah, the Bulls.
Franklin Bulls.
Franklin Bulls,
yeah.
Wow. And it was funny because we were talking about it. I was like, I'm gonna have to follow that team.
Is that the Manukau team?
No, they're based out. I think they're from all that.
They're based in
Yeah.
yeah.
But they're all that from that the south side.
Not far Waikato, because Waikato got their own.
Yeah, Waikato's got their own, but so it's just there. But they're based out at yeah.
Like the netball, they've also got a netball team.
Yeah.
Is that
That's where they have the tag. What's it? We near what's his name? Near Stacey's place out Takanini.
Bruce Bowman.
Yeah. So they were
yeah.
based out there. Yeah. But that team, the Bulls, they're based in Pukekohe.
Oh.
Yeah. So I guess it's a bit closer than
How are they going?
Well, they weren't too bad.
Yeah.
So the season's finished. It finished last Friday.
So Wellington won.
Wellington
I
Saints.
saw that.
Yeah.
That was a good game.
Yeah,
Could have gone either way.
That's right. And they were flat out favourites, say the Saints.
Yeah.
Because they were beating everybody.
Yeah.
But they were smashing everybody. They played.
It was just out of it when they said, just come from Porirua. And I went, the Wellington Saints based out in P-Town.
If it wasn't the Nelson Giants, it was the Saints, eh?
Yeah.
They were the kind of the team back in the...
Well, they've always been strong, eh? There's kind of like the...
Nelson Giants has always been a strong team. Where did they end up this year?
Well, I think they might have lost in the semis. Or they were right. Yeah.
I know Auckland beat them.
Yeah.
Because Auckland had a good run, won 5 in a row.
Grizzlies.
And then they lost in the semis.
But yeah, just the style of just everyone. It's just so, just for us as basketball fans to see that. Yeah, man, it's up there. I think when it comes to participation, it's only second behind football, behind soccer.
Oh.
So those are the two, two sports that everyone's going to. And I know that's not good for the All Blacks. So, but
but it's quite entertaining. When we went to the Breakers game, and I've been taking the kids to the Breakers game. It's entertaining there, like the whole halftime, and they get the crowd engaged. They jump up.
Like I think the cool thing about basketball is just the early. I mean, it's easy to understand sport. If you took someone came out of space and you went to watch an All Black game, and they'll be like, "So why's this guy always doing this whistle? You know what? Why are they hugging each other? Why? They, but if you went to a basketball, you go like,
put
even
the
if
ball in that little circle.
That's it. You go over there, you put it over there. They come and they try and put it over there. And I think that's why if you look at the fans now, the basketball fans, if you look into the crowds, you know, there's a bit of everyone. You know, a lot more younger people because, if anything, it's more interactive than a rugby game. Hey, so I think that's the cool thing about basketball.
Yeah, I find the netball these days with the girls starting to put in the biff. Baji. Yeah. I'm starting to find the netball. Oh, man. That's really good.
Yeah, man. Some of the little, you know, I'm like, hey, man, I know they'll take them out from underneath them.
Yeah, start doing this and just doing that. And, but I felt the basketball really helped my rugby as well because, the hand-eye coordination with ball.
Especially being on lock.
Yeah.
Especially
in the line-outs and... It was just like catching a rebound with one hand down, sort of thing.
One hand, is it?
Well, you guys were the point guards. We did all the thing and then threw it to you guys.
No, but
yeah, I was going to ask you that, like the transition, like how did that?
Yeah, basketball and rugby. Well, I think it ended up being quite a communal. You know, being with the boys was something that was a highlight for me rather than the actual game itself, and then it just grew. And you realise, you know, what your part of the game is versus their part of the game is, and the camaraderie as well was something that was quite appealing to me at the time. And basketball was in Mo'ia, but it just had its season. You know, obviously it was and you only met at Apia Park playing at the gym there every now and again. But then other than that, it's all at the scrimmage at the Peseta courts every day of the week, you know, after work. But yeah, rugby was just a little bit more. I mean, none of the village boys played basketball at the time, so it was playing rugby with the village boys was a little bit more closer because you're representing the village as well. So,
how did you find going back to Samoa? 'Cause it was funny because we had. Marcus last night, and he's a DJ, and his parents used to own Away. yeah. So they moved back to Samoa, and then they ran the Away that was over in Samoa. But he said,
Tropicana, remember Tropicana?
Yeah.
So they own that.
But he was saying that he moved from New Zealand to Samoa, and we were asking about the culture shock or just. You know, what was that like trying to transition from wake up in the morning and turning on the TV and from going to wake up in the morning hearing the Moors and the rooster.
And the pigs, you have to sully the popo to feed the pigs.
Yeah. What was that like, you know?
I didn't really miss the New Zealand life, to be honest. But I kind of went there knowing that I had to help mum and dad with their pisingisi they were trying to start up there. And then there were just moments where, because the place is so small, you just, here in Auckland, just jump in a car and drive out somewhere and play Spaceys or over there was. And we stayed at, so mum and dad ran at Whanauloa on the main drag there. And then we lived further out inland a bit so we had pig farms and we had to feed and that was sort of my job to do in the mornings and then come up to the shop and help them do their stuff. But it's just it's and it's not easy for Lele because the village Samoa's can be quite a tough place to interact. The people they're friendly and stuff, but man, if you look, you stand out 2 meters tall. You easily become the butt of all jokes at certain times too. So, but not only that, but you were able to create relationships and may enhance more relationships with your cousins that you might have grew up with then you saw them again when you went back to Samoa. So it was a bit of a culture shock, but mum and dad weren't really too into the Samoa way of life. They were just more, they spoke Samoan, but they weren't heavily, involved with more the protocols and the rituals. They just supported it from the back, and I guess that's where I stood as well, from the back. And then, sometimes when you play a sport with rugby, family thinks, we should give them a title. And then you receive your title while you're playing for Manu Samoa, because the elders thought that you carrying the family name, and you're doing something positive for the family. And even though there are others more deserving, and then you can't really speak the lingo very well, and you got a part, so you had different ideas. But amazingly, the elders always knew, what they can foresee further down the line, what you can contribute in terms of a title. So those are the things that, and then you just become indulged in the family stuff, and the whalawe, the family affairs, and with extended families. And you just, when I went to uni, I was at the age where I was starting to have a look at myself. Who am I? What's my culture? And those are the things I wanted to find out at that age, because before that was like anything goes up.
Yeah.
When you said you had titles and the elders, and sort of got immersed into the culture, and then did you feel like nothing else mattered? Just what at that time, like what was happening with the culture, coming, the family, like the outside world is like.
Yeah. I think you have that sense of belonging getting a bit more enhanced when you envelop yourself in the. In
Is that what happened to you? Like, and then you just felt at peace. Like, it's like it is what it is. It's
and your identity. There's a sense of identity that because you're born in New Zealand and you kind of raised here, and there's a void that you don't know much about your culture, but you should find out.
I say that because I went to Samoa and I worked over there, and the sort of same thing happened to me, where coming from New Zealand, knowing all New Zealand stuff, and the technology we got, and the things that we have, and then going over there and just being immersed to a family, or for me, it was probably not as much culture as you, but it was more family and the way of way of life, and then just forgetting about the dramas or politics or things like phone and computers and podcasts, technology or anything that had nothing to do with what I was experiencing over there, with just living and being happy and being with family and just doing what I need to do for my aunties and uncles and my cousins, and going to work and coming back, help pay the bills, and
It was hard for me to engage in a conversation when I first went there, because we're so used to, like us here, we know when to laugh, we know how to trigger each other's, we make things funny. Over in Samoa, you have the same thing, but you're not getting the same response. And then you think,
am I being dry, or this guy a serious guy?
And then when they say something, you think, oh, that's really, really funny, but that's a bit sick.
No, bro, you're right. The levels of humor there. And the other thing is, like, what? Sometimes they're saying something, but at the bottom there's something behind it. You know what I mean? And there's like
I've been tripped up on that many times.
So you're laughing along with them, and then when you think, this guy's just making fun of me, and that's why they're even laughing even harder. I'm usually that guy, because I'm usually when it comes to Samoan, I'm all over the place, and then they'll say something, well, I don't feel me, and they go, I did it. They're all laughing, and then it isn't until you're sitting in the back there having a cigarette, and man, I'm sure these guys were just being their kalaulas, and I'm just I'm being the butt of their jokes here,
That's the culture shock for me, was that kind of language barrier where you kind of didn't really they didn't get you, and you kind of didn't get them.
at the same time, I love the simpleness about being there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And, just breaking away from the mad rush over here.
And the regimented life here that, this, you got to, over there, everything's quite fluid and, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
I like that story of your first day at work, eh?
Oh, because when I went over there, and it took me weeks to get all my stuff organized, like bank account.
When did you move there?
3 years ago. 3-4 years ago. It was only a 6 month stint. But I just remember trying to do my bank account, do my UB and all that stuff. But it took weeks. Because I'll lose my application or I have to come back or wait in line, long line, and it takes an hour. Yeah. Then when I get to the front, it's like, I can come tomorrow. And it takes weeks to set everything up.
Yeah, somebody else told you something
else. Exactly. Yeah.
You still get that in South Auckland, no?
But at the end of the day, people will be frustrated and angry. But me, man, I love that. It's like, okay, all right, I'll do the same. Like,
there's no
relax.
pressure, right?
Yeah. But the story you wanted me to tell was my first day at work. So they told me, because I had to sign a contract on that, and it was like I think it was 9 to 5.
Who did you work for?
I was working for Kramer.
Oh, yeah.
Have you dealt with those guys?
Yeah. With Ethel Greentree?
Yeah, Ethel,
was he?
Yeah. So he's the one that got me the job.
Oh.
Yeah. Because I was when I went to Unitec the second time around, he was in my class. So that's when I met up with Ethel.
Wow.
But, so he got me the job. So, yeah, I was just waiting outside the office for an hour before someone came to open. But that was a good time. It's a good time.
Well, it looked like, I went over and visited him on Christmas. And he was going, yeah, man, I'm doing this, going back in here and, get to work this time. I was going, mate, you're living the life. You're living the life over there, mate, And it looked good, And what year? It was about when did we have our family reunion? So it was about 2015, 2016. Hey. And, that's the first time I'd actually seen so the airport was still getting built, I think. They were kind of...
That's right, yeah.
Because I remember
when you come in there.
Yeah.
It wasn't built yet.
It wasn't built. And then when I went again to take my dad back, and I was like, man, this is, Samoa's really moving with the times, but then you see some of the stories in Samoa Observer. I mean, I'm like, today I saw... They went to a house and they found $23,000 cash and drugs in it.
Really?
Yeah.
Today
it was online. Yeah, and I was like, man, the drugs in that, it's really is becoming a problem over there, eh?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the meth and ice and all that sort of stuff. That's what I'm hearing too. They're cooking this stuff.
Yeah, you just got to wonder what they're cooking.
With Tonga as well, there was a documentary on Tonga having that meth problem also. And, it was just...
Well, it seems like the same thing that's happening here is what, Samoa's already experiencing all the Pacific Islands, because I remember I watched this documentary on Vice, and it's about all the deportees from America in New Zealand that go back, and it was about guys that are in Tonga. One of them had come, he'd been deported back from America because he was born there, but he'd never been to Tonga, all his life he'd been, although he was born in Tonga, he'd been taken over to America, when he was just a baby. Yeah. And then so he's trying to, like we're talking about culture shock, he's trying to adjust to life and that, and he's trying to figure out. He's just lucky that his family had land there, and all these guys are taking their wingers back or everything that they've learned. So that's why there's that, unfortunately, that's why there's that drug problem, because they're bringing that stuff in, and Samoa's experiencing it now, and it feels like we're having it now because these guys coming back from Australia. That's why there's this big boom in gangs, eh?
Yeah. You're right. That's kind of been the thing for the last, in the news articles too. It's just connecting dots in Tonga, Samoa, here, and the deportees are those, there's Polynesians, there's Pacific.
The ones from Australia.
From Australia.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the 501s.
Yeah, so I mean, man, it's
the other thing is because, when they come from Australia, the gang mentality is different from the gang mentality here. Because, we're just gangs, but we're not. There was never that kind of everyone's going around shooting everyone. But then
everyone point blank. Yeah.
But you look at Australia, man, their drug culture, their gang culture is real, they'll
it's like Americans now.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the gangs recently, I think it was at the beginning of the year, he was taken out. He must have been at some speedway or something, and there was like a sniper, shot him. I was like, man, we're always so this is born identity stuff. Jason Bourne's out there, if it was gangs back in the days here, you just go ask them, just go outside and have a fussle.
Yeah.
But these guys are, so he got
no
shot.
time wasted, eh?
That's it. They like it's the crime in that's so dangerous over there, and they're bringing it back in. You can see the shift, and it's sad, and hopefully we can, especially for our youth and for the future generations, that we don't fall into that habit.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah.
We talk about this drug stuff and islands and that, but yeah, you didn't see none of that when you were there, especially the Manu Samoa days.
No, I mean you smelled the odd reefer here and there.
Oh,
but,
yeah. Not out of hand, like.
And yeah, but
the media says now.
No, there was none of that, and guys would have, like you say, sort their differences out outside, and a few bottles flying here and there, but it wasn't anything to what we're seeing now or what we're hearing on the newspapers. It's really quite especially young people.
Yeah.
Because then they get breeded into that because it's easy money, and feed your family and look after your family. And
well, the thing about, my fear is because, Samoa, like you're saying, is you have a lot of downtime. And what they say, idle hands, the devil's playground, you're going to get bored, and then all it takes is, one person to give you, because I know when I go back to Samoa, ever since I've been young, going back since, the mid-90s, all our cousins, they'd have their weed and that, to me it's like nothing, because, we know it's around here, we're masangi to our boys, going to the back, have a joint and that. But then when they started talking, like last couple of times I went back and they were talking to the Asa and like the way they were saying it, and I'm like, what?
it's the new norm.
Yeah. They're talking like it's, like you're going to the Whaloloa, buy your cook. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but it just feels like, the way, like their mentality is like, oh, well, it's here, so.
And I think, one journalist said, look, meth here in Auckland is more accessible than marijuana, because you can get it in your hand in 5 minutes just by calling somebody, and that's the real stinger there. If that's the case, well, it is the case. Yeah. It's the reality of people here in Auckland with that problem. So yeah, I think coming back to family core values, that we all grew up with too. I mean, we've got to reinforce it, and I know mums and dads are working 3-4 jobs as well. You've got the kids that left to their own peril sometimes too. So we've got to really, and this is what I like and I find modern about our discipline and our growing up with our values, because we can still adapt it to today and not get lost.
Even through the architecture too. But that's so cool, man.
Yeah.
Like doing all that. One thing I want to talk to you about, I knew you were coming, and obviously your Manu Samoa days, because back then, that was when we never had those rules, the eligibility rules.
Yeah.
And you played on the team that made history. It's the second time around when you guys beat Wales.
Yeah.
In '99. and playing alongside Stephen Bishop.
Pat Lamb.
Inga.
Yeah. I mean that's the last time you're gonna see a team, like that, until these eligibility rules disappear.
That's right. Yeah.
So you're that's a history team. You're part of history, And to me that's like, wow. Like, and how many years ago was that? That's long. That's a long time ago.
21 years. Yeah.
And to me, like, because that was under because Was that during the time Manu Samoa was funded by Faye Richwright? Those guys?
Yeah, so Faye Richwright took over part, I think they were part owner, or they created a company called Manu Samoa Limited. And so that's where the Manu Samoa slotted under. But it was them and the union that made the calls on the, on the team. And sponsorships, and, you were given some money, to play game, match fees and all that sort of stuff. But it was a real sense of professionalism and being looked after professionally by Faye Richwright as well. So it felt good in that sense. So you're not worried about the management politics or the rugby union politics. You just focus on your job, and that was to play. And then Faye Richwright will look after the other side of the.
Because to me, looking at that, that's a real good investment. Because at that time, Manu Samoa was a brand, and they beat Wales in the 2 World Cups before that. And they've got ex-All Blacks in there. So it's a team that people, they became the darlings of the World Cup.
Yeah.
Every time it comes around, so everyone's watching Manu Samoa.
Yeah.
And all these players that come in and play.
Well, it was really that 91 team that really put Manu Samoa on the map.
Yeah.
And they had Frank Bunce and all these guys before they actually, went on to other things like the All Blacks and stuff. And then the 95 roll around, they made the quarterfinals again. And they beat Argentina and other teams to qualify for that Rugby World Cup. But Faye Richwright, I think, also made the Manu Samoa appeal more, I think, in terms of that, you were getting looked after by a well-established, well-oiled company, such as Faye Richwright. So I think that really made people feel a little bit more secure about, that side of things. There was always the culture and the manner of the team, and playing for the blue jersey and playing for your country. That was always in the team culture. But getting looked after, because it was starting to be the professional era in 96, I think it was. Jonah Lomu made that, that statement. And so Faye Richwright really looked after us in that respect. And, it was almost it was just getting looked after by Faye Richwright.
Which to me is probably weird, because you think that over the years things should improve, but it's going backwards.
What do you think it was? I don't want to be, but do you think it's because they handed it back? When you're saying that when Faye Richwright were there was an element of really being run professionally, because it was new into the era. But then once they left, when it went back to the Samoan Rugby Union, do you think they didn't handle that transition well because they didn't have someone there to look after them in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, the union obviously held the team before Faye Richwright came along as well. And they made history on many levels, under the rugby union. So, credit to them as well. But it was also that, the politics side of the sport too, and you don't mix that with sport and all the other things as well that kind of took over. And I mean, yes, there was the team, was it the 2011 Rugby World Cup that was held in New Zealand? We started to see that that there were cracks falling with the management and the players, and the players. I think Mahonri was interviewed by the news, and
John Campbell was leading that crusade,
talking about man, we can't seem to concentrate 100% on what we're supposed to do because we got this other side stuff that's going on.
Well, when that happened, that was the first time we saw that something was wrong.
Yeah.
And what happened?
Yeah.
The sad thing is it didn't just happen overnight, When they had that meeting and they showed we were supposed to be the headquarters for the
Yeah.
someone, and I went, sorry, that looks like the old YMCA at Lokopa. That's what it looked like. And I was like, run down, chicken net on the, on the
Grass not mowing.
yeah, that's right. You know what I mean? And I thought, this is like those, and it was, I think it was for me, and I don't know, it was hard to accept that. Like, nah, man, how could this be happening all under our noses? I mean, how could they be doing this to our national team?
I think
the national team.
the 2011 team was stacked. It was, man, they had a lot of players. They beat Australia that year too. So it really goes to show how much the character the boys had to really push that rubbish out to the side and play for their country. And that game against Australia really proved to the rest of the world that what they're capable of doing.
Because I think now what's happening when you watch the documentary about what's going on, like Northern Hemisphere and the contracts.
Daniel Leal's.
What's it called again?
That's the one with Rubeni in there.
Yeah.
There's a series, and he's got different.
Yeah, that was Daniel Leal. Wow.
Yeah.
Daniel Leal. That's
his documentary. There's island players that are locked up in contracts that can't come back to play, and then you've got Ireland having island players in the team, like Northern Hemisphere team having island players in the team. It's sort of like you look at the '99 Manu Samoa team, and you look at what's happening now. All these things, someone changed everything to make this happen over here.
Yeah.
So what they want it now, they don't care about the island teams. They just want the best players from the islands to come play for them. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
I think it happened after the '99 when you guys beat Ireland. Remember, it wasn't long after that. I mean, sorry, Wales. It wasn't long after that they changed the eligibility rules, and I felt like it was a reaction because they couldn't have this little island of in the middle of the South Pacific beating, because Wales,
just doesn't
Wales
make
is their
sense.
rugby is one of their top played sport, and you've got these little guys, in their little blue jerseys, and they come and beat them at the Millennium Stadium.
Yeah.
And they're like, "This, no, we can't have that happen again. We're gonna, and that's what it's. And honestly, that's what the success of that team is probably what kind of led to the downfall of the Manu in a sense,
And I posted about this on my Facebook post a few weeks ago that I read an article that they blamed that the reason why they changed the eligibility rules was because of the Shane Howarth thing, the Granny Gate scandal. That was the whole reason.
Yeah.
Not because the obvious that they were beaten twice by Samoa.
Yeah, they used that man as a cover up, man, conspiracy.
I still,
but Shane played in that game.
he did. Yeah. And I still give him heaps because he owns the Fresh Choice in our neighbourhood.
Oh,
Shane Howard, great man. But I always say, you remember that time in Wales?
I think he was the reason why he scored one of the tries. Bad pass, I think, or something like that. But no, that's a game I remember, that '99 game.
Yeah, I think the concern too was nowadays is just whether, if you read, it was just a few days ago about Kefu reaching out to the local clubs saying, "Oh man, do you know any Tongans?" That was the headline of the post, and I thought, far out. This is still ongoing, and he's looking for players to play for Tonga. And meanwhile, they just chucked the jersey out to that Tongan hooker who scored 2 tries on his debut. And the way I see it was that sometimes the New Zealand Rugby Union, the player depth is so awesome that they just chuck a jersey out to one of the up-and-coming PI just to lock him in.
In the net, eh?
If he's wanted or not, and then if he's not, he's scrambling for contracts. That's the reality of it too. So, man, we're hoping that we don't see these small island nation unions start to disappear. How we're talking about the power, how you said how clubs weren't releasing players to come back. Because Samoa, a couple of years ago, they were having that issue, like clubs, European clubs were giving players like, you're either going to play for us or play, we're not going to release you for the... Is the issue that the IRB isn't hard enough on these
European clubs saying when it's, because when it comes to FIFA and that, when it's time to play for, you're either going to play for Brazil or all these cups, Oceania Cup, they've got the thing there where they tell them you have to release these guys. There's no ifs or buts. Why don't the IRB do that? Because I feel like there's guys that's their livelihood, so they don't want to jeopardize that by trying to come back.
Yeah, and I think there's been some shifts around that too, and I think some other things is also that some of these clubs are backed by millionaires. So if they see one of their star players go, the team actually drops down and loses, sponsorship deals. And so there's always the players are always left with that sort of thing of going back. But once upon a time you were on international duty, have to go, and that was part of the contract.
Yeah.
That's what I meant about... that's what I don't understand about the money thing. I mean, people say, oh, someone's got no money, someone's got no money. Well, you guys had free wish right back in those days. Why can't we have free wish right now? I mean, what's stopping?
Approaching him again.
Or just another another guy, another billionaire guy that wants to invest. I mean, obviously it's a thing.
It is, and also, they look at, Samoa's a tough place politically. Right? We've just seen
yes,
3 months
the last 3 months
transitioning from. So
but if we get all that right,
if we get all that right, there might
yeah.
be a possibility, and we probably will in future too. And I think Naomi Fiamia is a. This is what I'm just hearing through my context. So she'll strongly support the team in that way as well. So it'll be interesting, these sponsorships, because obviously you need that to get the team, touring and keeping players and getting them to play good matches so that they can maintain that level of rugby. And we saw the recent Manu Samoa. Some of us old boys are starting to get excited about the brand of rugby they're starting to show under the leadership of Vavasamanga, Seilala and Mahonri and Whaalongo, Tano Mango, and then we went to their group. We got invited to present their jerseys, I think, just before the Māori All Blacks second test. And it was really, really touching to be in that space again, because not anybody is invited to that.
Exclusive club, eh?
Yeah, and also the mana and the culture of the team. We're starting to see it come up, and I was nudging I said, man, I'm starting to feel the team culture is starting to come up. And team culture is everything for us to thrive, both on and off the field. We need the culture of the team. Yeah. And we've kind of heard that it's been, lost sometimes, and that can be reflected on the boys' efforts on the field. And so if you don't get that culture right, it's so it was really, really encouraging to see and to feel, the emotions inside that room that we presented the jerseys to, and it was really humbling to be there. And I think we felt the boys appreciating the blue jersey, emotionally, and talking about families and what it means to them and all that sort of stuff. So that was really good.
Do you guys still get together, that 99 team, World Cup team?
Well, we've got an old boys association, Manu Samoa Old Boys Association, and I'm just trying to think of anybody in the 99. We've got Manu Samoa Old Boys that are from the 80s. It's a good 91s. There's a 95s. 99. Omua To'o is probably the only 99 player that's there. And we're small. We're just trying to grow it. And then we've got Filippo Levi, which sort of came in a little bit. He's a little bit younger. So we've got quite a good mix. We're still trying to get it out there to get all the old boys, but it's all about looking after their well-being and just touching base, see how they are. We're not fundraising to raise money for the union or anything like that. That's not what we're about. We're just trying to just touch base and see what everybody's up to and get together and have a couple of drinks or go to these matches and support the Manu Samoa when they come over and all that sort of stuff. So Yeah, it's really good because we always talk about all those stories back playing, in the blue jersey, but then life goes on, and some of us lose hair, some of us lose teeth, and our midsection start coming out. So, life. Post rugby.
So there was nothing before you guys had started up this Old Boys session. Was there nothing like that for you guys to pass on that knowledge or pass on that, share that experience with these?
Not officially. I mean,
Okay.
it's the Manu Samoa Old Boys is an official non-profit organisation now. We formed it in 2000. We launched it in 2016. But no, I mean, before that was just I bumped into so and so at the mall or at the funeral, or But now we've got a good reason why we need to get together, and we just. So some of the guys are quite tight too, and we're trying to pull in others as well that we've seen around or we bumped into. At a local rugby game and stuff like that. So, but it's good to reconnect with the old boys.
Do you remember the time before you guys headed out to that 99 World Cup in Samoa, like the build up and our people at the time, seeing you guys, and how was it? How were you feeling in Samoa at that time?
I think 99 was a year where we played a lot of tests. We had France come over, and then there's always a special occasion where we have the march down Beach Road and stand in front of the Parliament building, and people wish us farewell. It was a really special moment, And then coming back here and also doing the same thing here as well with local community, and then we had a training camp for the World Cup up the Bay of Islands, away from the noise and bushwalking, running through the bush, getting ready for the Rugby World Cup campaign. So no, it was always special moments, heaps of special moments, and playing in front of the Apia Park was really something else too. And our people, passionate people, and if you lose when they know that you should have won, you won't hear the end of it. But because they know, they're passionate about the team, and but if Tonga beat you where you're supposed to beat Tonga at Apia Park, it was just. But and then the next week you play well and you beat some other team, and then you're their number one again.
Yeah.
That's the thing of me when I watch Manu Samoa play, because it's exciting. You don't know if they're gonna win or lose.
Yeah.
You always want them to win.
Yeah.
But there's a chance they'll lose, okay.
Yeah.
Next time. It's not like watching the All Blacks when they win all the time.
Mm.
And it's like you're just watching that to see some good moves, or some good plays or anything like that. And that's all you're watching it for. And then that's why I stopped supporting the All Blacks. I'm just, I'm on Samoa hard,
What do you think when Fiji got close to them in that first test?
And you know what? I knew All Blacks will, But Fiji are strong. Fiji, they're probably the strongest island nation now, eh?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, they have been for a while, though,
Yeah. And I think they
were always good in sevens, but now they're coming through 15s now.
too.
Oh.
No, I thought, man, Fiji really took another level when they played against the All Blacks. They held them scoreless for like 29 minutes or 30 minutes. Not scoreless, but the scores were very close.
They seem like a team that has got it together, huh? They've kept some good players. I mean, they're not losing players, but when I think about the All Blacks stealing Islanders, they only steal the wingers from Fiji, not the forwards or anything like that. But it seems to me that Fiji is like a team that's they've got all the players, and they tend to bring them all in.
Yeah, and they look like they've got good management, good coach as well, which is really, really important. The management with the Manu Samoa, when I got to meet them, and it was some real professional. That the trainers, there was nutritionists, and we didn't have a nutritionist back when I was playing, but just to know that you're looked after that side of things too really made you feel confident about the preparations that the boys are going through before a match, which I think was really, really important. Yeah, so they had a really nice balance of people, professional people on their management, and in the players as well too. So they've got a good mix. I hope they stay together and start building from here until the next World Cup.
Have you seen the Fiji Drua team? Like how many of this team is made up of them? Like I don't know. Like,
I don't know about the Moana Pacific.
Yeah,
because it's that'll be another interesting concept to see how that goes as well. I think I might have seen. I think they're still trying to organise their board and their management and selections of those people that will look after the team next year. Is it 2022? When they're coming?
It is
next year, I think.
It is next year, right?
2022.
Yeah.
So that's so.
I just hope they get the players from that aligned to Tonga and Samoa, to come and play for this team and play in a tough competition, a good competition to practice,
and then go back and play.
Yeah, and go play for their
island nations.
Yeah, I'm a bit iffy about this 20% aligned to New Zealand. Because it's like, how many of these New Zealand guys are going to put in the the starting lineup?
Yeah.
And but I guess that's the deal
just
they've
to wait
got.
and see how they go about their.
Yeah, I mean that's the deal they have, so they have to go with it if they want to be, I guess. But
is it 20%?
Oh, something.
Is it
20%?
I think it's 20%. Something. What did Tracy say? Yeah. So that's the deal that Moana Pacific will put together. But I mean, like you said, it's a wait and see. Hopefully it does bring benefits for island. I mean, for Pacific Island rugby. So hopefully we'll have another 1999 Millennium Stadium, story, or a repeat. So, so the next World Cup, it's 2 years, is it? Because I think after the All Blacks lost or something, I just stopped watching World Cup rugby. So.
2023.
Yeah.
In France,
Yeah. See, well, that's the other thing. All the guys that are coming back for Tonga. If it wasn't for COVID and that, they'd have the likes of Fekitoa and Charles Piutau, and
they'll have such a strong team.
That team is going to be, and Samoa too. Would have our guys coming back from Europe.
Well, we still have that loophole, the Olympic loophole, that they can go through to play for the island nations if they want.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I think it's too late for this World Cup
round.
coming.
Oh, has to be.
They had to be playing this round of qualifiers to make. That's why I think it's all been in captain them at the last Olympic trial or something like that.
But he's in there.
Yeah, so he's in.
Yeah.
He just needed to be, and I think Charles Piutau is trying to come through too. Yeah. So, man, see, that's what I'm, all these guys that are playing overseas, if they come back, we'll have the same scenarios we did back in 99 and in 91. So, hopefully they'll also put their hands up.
We'll be rattling a few cages.
Hey, that's right.
I mean, that's what you were saying before about the contract thing. I mean, the World Cup should show the best players in rugby. And if you haven't got them because of contracts, then it's not. It's not that spectacle.
Their money wins. Money takes over what's the
politics.
I mean,
exactly.
you want to see Charles Piutau in the Rugby World Cup. You want to see Stephen Lotua. You want to see all these guys. That are top of their game. In the Rugby World Cup. And if they can't fit because All Blacks are full, then let them play for someone else. Because they can. I mean, if FIFA can do it. Will rugby?
Well, that just shows. Fine. Well, it just kind of says, to me, it just shows that IRB aren't as, it kind of shows that they do answer to someone else. The FIFA, they don't care about anyone else because they're the overall. They run everything, so everything comes back to them. But IRB, it seems like if they answer to someone besides the union, so kalofai. So now that's so with you going forward. How you said, sorry to go all the way back, but how you said you got advice about people telling you not to go into business for yourself, and how did you find it? How are you finding that? I was just thinking that I was like, what that kind of advice when people say that kind of thing,
About not going into
for business.
never do it yourself.
Yeah.
Because I think they knew that it's not easy to undertake this type of business on your own, because you'll just be doing a lot of admin, and that's true. You got to go out and meet people, network. That's another truth. And then at the end of it, you've got drawings to do, which is what you're getting paid for. And you don't want to do that late at night at 8 o'clock. You can go right up to the morning till 2 o'clock until you've done a decent 6 or 7 hours. And then you got to get up the next day and do it all over again. So it's really quite an unhealthy lifestyle. And also that the invoices will come in slow, because you're always going to be chasing invoices. And you're not exactly doing the work, especially, I guess, as a Pacific Islander. You're getting pulled from because our people want to deal with their own people about their projects too. So you're only going, so it's that sort of thing. And you still got to get your name out there and still got to network, but you also got another job that you have to do. So we were always told, try and partner up with somebody, and so that the work here gets ticked over while you're out and about scoring other work to bring in. And in that way, that's more of a life healthy, and you still, money still, the invoices still tick over to pay for your bills. And
But you've got another thing you have to do, the lecturing.
yeah, so and that was the thing for the last 10 years. I've been doing that part time, and that's been consistent every year, second semester. I've said, I want to teach third years, and because the school was trying to adjust its way to the Pacific, I was kind of the only sort of Pacific teacher at the time too, to tick off that side of the box, eh? And then so that was good in terms of the kind of the money. It was consistent, but then it was the other job too that you try to do and trying to promote yourself out there. And I just said to my colleague too, I'm really glad that I'm doing the lecturing now, which means that I don't have to do any more of these drawings for extensions and renovations. Not, because those are the work that your bread and butter work. But you also spend a hell of a lot of time, especially with council, and you probably know, dealing with council and all their RFIs and their real pedantic issues at the moment. And that just slows that sort of thing down, and your money comes in slow.
Especially with residential.
Residential.
Do you do any commercial?
No, I do. I think the last commercial that I'm on is a refurbish of an old church hall in Grey Lynn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've done a shop and all that sort of stuff. But all that sort of stuff now is I'm starting to, and I'll do the fun stuff.
The design stuff.
The design stuff, which is, consultation work with Kaingora. I was down in Wellington for the last 3 Wednesdays. There was a proposal for a Fale Malay down in Wellington waterfront there, and one company down there called me to come down and give them a hand. And so we were shortlisted for 3 of us between Jazz Max, Warren Amani, and then these guys, Tenet Brown. And so we went the last Wednesday, just gone, we were down there presenting it to the board. Chief Domako, or Manu Samoa, Winnie Laban. She's championing this Fale Pacific Space Hub, or this hub for the communities down in Wellington, right on the waterfront too. So, so it was a big project, but just talking ideas and some concept designs, and we presented it to the board. So I don't know if we got it or not. I'm not sure. So the consultation work is good, because then you're not doing the detailed design documentations, and you're not worried about all those instrumental drawings that, we did back. You're more just designing and talking about designs. And
because if you go to Architect, they can provide a full service. So it's like preliminary design first. Then you get your idea, you do a brief, and then you sort of get the first idea, and then if they agree, then you move on to the next stage. So all these stages are different fees, huh? They got different fees, and then when they agree, develop design, and then when you agree, you draw the plans, and that's a whole lot.
Yeah.
Then you go building consent, get the building consent, and then the next stage, if you want to carry on, is for the architect to manage the project on site. Yeah, so there's different stages, and if you provide full service, the whole thing, or you can just do half, or just do one thing.
So the part you're in is like you get to just imagine, or you're just telling them. You know.
Just become the part of the conversation at the very outset of the project. Looking for ideas first.
Yeah.
And obviously Pacific ideas, my sort of special area.
Awesome.
And then, the architects you work with might look like this or might look like that. Once that's all been okayed, then we shift that over to the technicians or the CAD, where they start drawing it up in CAD form or model.
And that's what I do.
Oh, okay.
Stuff that I'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, it's good. I think with the Kāinga Ora job, Kāinga Ora, you guys know Kāinga Ora. They've got to build 10,000 houses in Māngere for the next 10, 15 years. But the only thing is that the good thing with Kāinga Ora, they're trying to pull all the local people that know about the area to help them come up with better designs, just so that you're able to. Because it's 65% of Pasifika live in Māngere. So giving them a box is not going to work because we live a little bit differently than But so they're after those ideas that you might help them to design something that suit their cultural and modern lifestyles. But also not just for them, but it might be a new idea that non-Pacific people can enjoy and can. So that's the Kāinga Ora thing that we're working through at the moment.
So how much research do they do behind the cultural aspect of it? You know how, they look at the environment and they look at our people, our sort of how we live, and they work around it. They get all this data and then we design around it. They develop a brief for us to design around that.
Yeah, and also in the past they've used Pacific and Māori architects or designers that did the don't know if you come across the Pacific Design Guidelines for Housing New Zealand.
Yeah.
That was done by Polisi Faumuina. That was the architect. He's still around, I think. So they've used those as guidelines to help any other designer that come along and design things. So you got to follow this template.
And does the council take that template and allocate it to certain places in Auckland?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Well, just where a high volume of Pacific people might be as well. But see, the interesting thing is I find that the Pacific and Māori, that both guidelines are almost parallel. And these are fresh ideas, it's, for example, the European model was compartmentalize of spaces using walls. Aokakoula, we don't like walls. Bowl them over and open plan them. And those are the opposite of the European model versus the Pacific Māori model. And this is more modern than this one. So they opted this one as well because there's a lot of non-Māori, non-Pacific people that also enjoy open plan living.
I assume these guidelines go into the resource consent, change the resource consent around? Like part of it? Part of the resource consent?
Yeah. So Kāinga Ora's got that, and they always, now we have to update it. And with fresh, so I've been called to come up with 3 typologies for medium density. And, things that I started asking Kāinga was, okay, so if a Pacific Islander live on the 3rd floor, how do they get their coffin up there? Because we like our loved ones to come home. Do we? So, and they're really open and they're quite fluid in their processes to say, why don't we give them a communal space down below on the ground floor? So everybody uses that. And that was one way of doing it. What we're starting to see is out of these medium density houses, there's no wharekāwale, there's no garage, there's no carport. It's all just side by side, 3 stories up. And then
Like a
there's
townhouse.
then there's a parking lot where the tenants can park their cars, which has to be quite close to. And not only that, they're trying to promote public transport in these areas too. They've got a light rail that they talked about coming through Mangili. And they're trying to get people off buying cars and reinvest back into their mortgage or their... You're right.
You see that with all the bike lanes, the cycle lanes
Yeah.
popping up everywhere, and especially on K Road, it's now 1 lane, car lane now,
Yeah.
both ways. You know, it's got the bike lanes on each
Yeah.
side, and bike lanes have their own traffic lights
That's right.
on K Road. You know, and I think I heard Christian Marito Brown complain about, man, no one's gonna ride a bike. Go buy a Saudi car and buy a bike in South Auckland.
And not only that, I mean, how do our elders in the middle of winter when it's raining go do their whakau?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where do they park their car if you guys are assigning their car parks down there? How do they get to their spot when it's skim?
So do you think, like, when this kicks off and the guidelines are in, like, you're gonna see Auckland with suburbs with different housing, different styles of homes?
Well, it might not be a form response. It might be a spatial one. You know, you're just looking at spaces, but you still get a pusa, you still get a box. But it might be the spaces that do something that's responsive to the way that people live. And that's what I say to them for Lily, because they said, oh, look, we don't want anything extravagant because it's expensive to build. We just keep it simple, less external and internal corners. But the only thing is, it might be a different space, different space planning of spaces. So.
Wow, that sounds exciting and cool that you get to put some input in there.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think there's some presidences around that I really like over in Holland, out of all places, the Netherlands.
Yeah.
There's some really cool stuff happening there. And I thought it's all about pulling stuff that will work, bring it here and localize it so that our people can... Because I get shoulder tap in our community saying, Soli, the hallways to these houses are... And then they say, so how the hell do we fit in the shower that's the 900 by 900? and then I said, and then I go back to Kaino and goes, hey, you know we're big people. Yeah. How do you, if you drop the fussy moli, how on earth?
Get a kuyo.
Get those toes when you stop.
They'll evolve. We're going to evolve. No, you know what? The awesome thing is that we've got someone there at the start. You know, and got you as a voice, because, like you said, we're very fortunate that they can come to you and shoulder tap you, because who if we didn't have anyone like you there in that position, who do we go tell? Us, our parents, and that who do they go tell? You know, they've gotten on to no person in between. So now to have a voice or someone that understands, like as simple as that shower thing, you know, it's my language. They're my saying they can, you know. Yeah,
that means we have to step out of the shower. But it's a process, and they've got their own internal politics too, which is probably why the whole thing's delayed. Well, with my involvement anyway, it's over a year now, and we still haven't started. And then, so the thing I'm involved with is the PACIFIC pilot housing. We're actually going to design the typologies, build it, and then test it in the community. And then I found out, whālongo mai lau Māori. Because, why is the Pacifica getting a pilot housing? We haven't got it. And we're tangata te whenua.
Yeah.
So then so they're having a bit of a ding-ding at the moment.
Yeah.
I said, well, yeah, so they should have a pilot thing too. But let me tell you something. In my research, it's almost similar the way our world views, because we have the same DNA. We Polynesians, we view space a little bit more different than Palalangi, but kuranga wapinga.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
So that's I've just been waiting. My phone went back on today. I think she rang, and now she mai la o maoli for mai la pimfang ma ka ko fungo. And I said, well, I didn't say anything. I thought, man, we all started out with just a conversation between us and them, fulele Pasifika, and alela well, my kongo kamasa.
Yeah.
You know, and I think they're going to try and dominate the project as well. So yeah, there's all that thing to navigate as well. So yeah, I get it. Ma avulele ele angale va, you know, ka ko ma manafino po ai lava, but you know, it's all a mutual respect. We're fussing the Maori, but man, some of them are just yeah.
That's a nice idea.
yeah. But like you say, like, you know, you'd think we'd come together, you know, times like that instead of, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like you said, it's a pilot. Hopefully, you know, can get it off the ground
Yeah.
soon, because like you said, it's been a year already, and you can see the pressures already on the government, because they promised X amount of houses, they promised that.
Yeah. What they didn't realize when they made those promises is that these new houses, the infrastructure under the ground need to be renewed to take the load of these houses. That wasn't factored in when they said we're going to build these. So they have to do the whole where we what do you call it? Restructure our koa ia lalo, like the drains and the stormwater and the sewer and all those things need to take, because that's probably post-war, around that time. So when you put these new houses on top and they're medium density, it's going to put stress on those, on the infrastructure, underground services.
See, I've always wondered about, you know, because you know, you guys are in the industry, but me, I'm like, why don't they just build the houses, you know?
Yeah.
That's just me being the naive guy, like, you know, you just get the gun and, you know, but then when you talk about that kind of thing, you know, I'm like, oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And because you don't want to burst the pipe, or, you know, all the... It's because
it gets complicated when council's involved. Like, you're gonna spend thousands of dollars before you do anything. And it's all about getting the balance and checks as well. Like, you know, all the services stuff on the ground, like, someone has to be accountable. You know, and you got to pay good money for them to sign the paper off.
Yeah.
Yeah, another thing too was that they said that these homes were affordable. And our people turn around and goes, what's affordable about it? You know, we can't afford to get in there. And, you know, so Kaingora is under pressure about we can't seem to make sales. And I'm involved with the Mangere housing group. We're the ones that sit across the table from Kaingora. And we say, look, Mangere for Mangere. First buy-in should be us before the rest of Auckland starts coming in. But the only thing is, we can't afford to buy the homes, so they're starting to open up to
the people outside of Mangere.
Yeah, and then so you're seeing a lot of, I mean more, but we're seeing a lot of young professional parangi couples walking their dog around Mangere. That's what we're seeing.
Yeah,
and that's a reality of young professional couples affording their house here. And then the thing is, after talking to them, the idea is they start getting the equity and start moving back in towards town.
It's just like reverse gentrification. You know what I mean? They push us out to push us back out. It's like a scene from Benny Hill or something. You know, they come and you're just running around here and you follow the line. You know, it's just.
You know, the interesting thing is a lot of our people are starting to look out towards Pukekohe.
Yeah. Well, we have a friend that's out in, she's out in Takanini, and I know some people stay out in Tuakau. One of our drivers,
Huntley.
Yeah, Huntley. You know, I know that was the whole purpose of that train coming from Hamilton all the way up. Unfortunately, not enough people are jumping on that.
Yeah,
but I mean, like you said,
it's only a matter of time too. I think
Pukekohe is. You know, I've been out there quite a few times lately, and you can just tell, like, you know, I'd never go that far. You know, the farthest I'm going is Weymouth or something. And now, you know, I'm heading out there, and you see the amount of people out there, and And it is becoming an option. They're either going down there or they're going up to Huapai and.
Is it a good thing though? Is it good for your future, for your family's future to invest out there?
I've got a cousin and her husband and their 2 young kids. They're a young couple. They've just bought their 2-bedroom for $600K. Similar here in Mangere, $750 and up. They can't afford it.
Wow.
So that's the reason. But they want to get into the property.
Oh, where did they go? To Pukekohe?
Pukekohe.
Oh, yeah.
But they want to get into the market.
Yeah.
I think what do you think about the housing market? Because I know, the average house price is 1.1 million now in Auckland.
It's bloody ridiculous.
That's the average price.
Shit.
It's like, it's the race to get a house, because once you get a house, then that's the start of your generational wealth. That's the beginning of it. We had a chance.
Yeah.
Our parents came from Samoa and they, a lot of us did buy a house. And then it's up to the kids to take over. Or a lot of the kids that have their house left for them in Ponsonby, still Greyland, sold it off. A lot of that happening.
Like my mum and dad, I've noticed that some of their generation, they don't want to borrow. Because I live in a rental, in an ex-P house, and Mangile there. But I've been begging mum and dad to release some equity because it's freehold, and their house, where their house is, sits really nice on a road that overlooks the Crater Farm and the airport in the Manukau Harbour in the distance. And so their house is worth, quite a bit. And they bought that in 84 for $63K.
Yeah.
But now, with the current situation with housing, the kids are starting to struggle because the price is just going up, and we want some of that equity to help out with that, with the deposit. But at Musula, in case they might be listening in, but at Musula,
but that's the way it is. That's the way the Barangis do it.
Yeah, but they're just scared. My parents are just really scared that they might lose the asset, whether something happens with me and my wife, or something happens with my sister and her husband, and they split, and then it falls to custody with their house, and then the bank claims their house, and it all goes pear-shaped after that.
So I'm in the same situation as you, where our house is freehold. So my dad, he came back to us, so me and my siblings, me and my brother mainly, and I said, we can either sell this house and buy another one, or renovate and buy another house, and use that as like we're talking about generational wealth, or use that for future. And the one thing my dad kept saying was like he just said don't. He's just like, there's this real fear, because then he'd start allowing all the people that he knows have lost their house, so money shop,
fear just gets
and then like, so we were all like this, and then I saw the bar going down like this. Nah, bro, it doesn't look like he's took himself out of it, because and I found that with my dad, and because he was like, and because we've seen those stories of loved ones or of close friends or church friends that have lost their house through mismanagement, or or
gambling debts.
That's it, or just not got caught in their pockets, Yeah, so I can understand that story with the like, they just, because I know that's what they're wanting, that they have. So
yeah, they do. I mean, my dad watches the news religiously, and he's got some concern that his kids are not getting in the housing market. But but when we have a face-to-face galangoa about it, it's like, say release me, so okay, awful. And then dad, and then mum's always jumping into, hey, go do it yourself. We did it ourselves. That's
different climate. It's a bit harder.
We can just see it. We're sinking.
I was about, the water was only up to their feet. I was okay. But I'm exactly the same. And when you're talking about releasing the equity, I saw, because my cousin, she is a mortgage broker, and when we put our cards on the table, she's like, well, how come you didn't do this, X amount of, And I was like, and I said, and I told her the truth. I got all emotional. I said, because we're scared. We've been scared. And she was like, what are you scared of? Take the leap. Because you're sitting on all of this, So, yeah, I understand where you're coming from too, because you want, we don't, I think it's because there's, and the other thing is the not understanding how the system works, eh?
Yeah, I mean, mo meo kaka yo inkia. Oh man,
Right.
ruthless.
They'll
They
do a
know
straight
what-
away. They do a straight away.
Yeah.
and then
And then they know how to get out of it, avoid the.
we sometimes we need to pull a page from
That's
the
right.
Inkias and the Singers' way of doing things.
Yeah, a friend of mine, a work colleague, and like this was years, we'd just started, and he had just started his job, and then he was like, I just bought a house. I'm like, hey man, we just started. Yeah. And he goes, no, because, he was part of this group where they were using, so there's about 10 of them, they were using the equity of 2 of the houses, but they were buying houses for each other, and they were just paying it off, and it was just under this one.
Yeah.
And I thought, how come we can't do that? Why didn't we, like that, besides the Far Love Love.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because we had Falame
That's right. They didn't have that stuff, And those guys, once there's a belief bank, 2 days later, they're gone, But no, not us, We like to,
take it easy.
Yeah. But when he said that, I was like, wow. And he goes, and I said to him, so you didn't actually, and he goes, no, sir. He was breaking it down for me. I was like,
my mum, because I said to my mum, I've been giving both of them heaps about, release my singer. and then, the mum's always got something to say, and she said, yeah, wala, yellow kafai.
oh man, someone say.
And then you walk back out, you're feeling this small.
Yeah.
I think it's hard for us because it's the quick fix we want. These things that the Inkias do, they do it in a long period of time, and they just
chip away
at it.
Oh.
And then sooner, like the example of your friend, it feels like it's overnight, but it's not. He's chipped away at it.
Yeah, that's right.
From A to B.
Well, I think our generation now, like, we're aware of it, but I think the one with our parents and that, they were in the. I feel like that generation was let's just live for now. Remember we were talking about it on our walk, how there was that generation. Let's just Samoans by nature, we can like. And we're just going to live for the moment.
We'll be all right.
Yeah, we'll be all right. Oh, bullet, moa. But us now that we're getting older, we're like, okay, then how can we make the system work for us?
Yeah, now we're panicking.
What's up here, man? You need the equity to take some of that, take the water out of the pool,
I mean, it's a reality now. So.
But I think it's good that we realize now.
Yeah.
It's better late than never. But no, I think we just have to adapt to what's the environment, adapt to what's happening, and just, hustle, I guess.
So do you see a pathway for these? You're talking about these houses that you're working on. Is there a will there be a pathway that our people can buy?
Yeah, and there's a lot of organizations that are trying to make them understand that there are pathways to owning your first home, but it all starts at home. It starts with you.
Yeah.
And sort of making lifestyle changes so that you guys are able to. As soon as you hear change, you go,
but I had
it's a tough one.
Lifestyle changes. Oh, man. That's a box here. I enjoy my coffees in the morning.
It's well, I mean, I've got an 11-year-old son, and I'm thinking, man, what's it going to be like for him to get into the housing market? Is he pushed out of where he's whakapapa to? And he's probably living down Gisborne or something with a Maoli Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Oh man!
But I thought, for me, I'd prefer just to get a small patch of land. It'll be cheaper if I design and build something on there.
Wow.
that's cheaper than buying a rundown house and then spending another 300k on doing it up. Or I'd rather just design new, start new. But then, yeah, I mean, I've been looking for patches of land for a while, and even that's been pulled up by developers, and any green, just developers are finding them and shoving 5 units in there.
That's what's happening out west, out
east west.
Ranui. So like it's happening, like these houses, they're actually just selling the plots of land as is. Even if it's a rundown house, we know what's going to happen. That the developer's going to come in, knock it down, three unit, 3 townhouses on that. Like we have it at the bottom of our street. And you know, that's why we were tempted in selling it, because we saw what was happening. We were, we could sell our house, you know, for this. But then, like, we turned around and went, you know, we're going to sell our house to move to an area, you know, the house might be brand new, but we're going to open the whaikoa and we're going to be looking at our next door neighbour brushing his teeth. You know, and what we love about our house, you know,
just giving them a
can I borrow some cheapies? You know, they can actually hand it to you. That's how close these houses are going to be like. And I think that was the one thing that we kind of stopped. We were like, I love having a backyard. You know, I like not taking, like, you know, being able to mow your lawn and having that kind of
it was
space, you know?
Once upon a time, the Kiwi dream.
Yeah.
You know, and now that's far-fetched. Now it's becoming it's not reality.
Unachievable way.
Yeah, but once upon a time, it was just almost your birthright if you were born here.
That's it.
1/4 acre, section at the back, 3-bedding on top. But now it's just, it's just... I was just wondering what the next generation would be like when they... You know, our kids and what they're going to go through with housing.
I think the secret is like always build on what your parents started. That's what I think. Like, you can't go backwards.
Yeah.
I think.
If you're fortunate enough to have, like us here, we're very fortunate that our parents own their houses. You know, there's a lot of people that their parents, unfortunately, have been renting, and they've been in the state house, and they're gonna. That's a cycle that you don't want. Like you said, that you want to go up, but if you stay stagnant, then you just that's just a cycle that you're gonna be to buy into. Well, or the other secret is you just go back to Samoa and then you just buy, buy a.
Do your whakuanga kalo there.
That's it, you know.
Go buy some land in Alisa or something.
Yeah, well, there's always money to be made somewhere, you know. So what do you got going forward for you? So what's in the future? I know you're really enjoying your lecturing or your teaching and that, because it sounds like, that's something that you love doing.
Yeah, it's but I also like the design part of being the what I call my side hustle now.
Hey,
your business.
The business side. You like and also the community. I think I really enjoyed that aspect of working with your community and stuff like that. But with the lecturing, I'm looking at a PhD mid next year.
Awesome. I was going to say that because when you loved all your friends and you'd say doctor, and I was like this.
No, but they expect you to. The unis
okay.
want you to be.
Yeah.
It's a top university in New Zealand, so they want all their lecturers to be to have a doctorate. And I'm at that age where I want to look at some research and keep the Pacific thing going as well. So maybe a PhD from mid next year. And the reason why I say mid is you've got to work there for a year, and then they'll fund your PhD from then on.
Awesome.
And do it part-time for 5-6 years. So that's probably the next journey. But helping out the community in some of their projects too is quite important to me. And as I mentioned, I'm quite heavily involved with the communities out South Auckland, from the academic sense as well. And I'm still trying to get with the work and all that sort of stuff to promote Pacific architecture.
You know, you said you were heavily involved in the communities out in South Auckland and that. You know, we were talking about how in Mangere it's getting to the point where you're seeing a lot of Balingi people, you know, a lot of professionals coming into Mangere. Is there any part of South Auckland that it's really taken a hold of? You know what I mean? Like, you know, there's Otara and all the, and we're talking about Mangere. Have you seen it actually happen in other parts of South Auckland, or
just where these new housing developments are? And I know Mangere is under the microscope for all these homes to be built there, and they've already started 3 or 4 years ago now. But yeah, the thing is housing affordability as well. So you know, we've always, as I mentioned before, try to get the first buy-in for some of our generation to get their first foot in the door with the houses there, but it's still unaffordable to some, and some are moving back to mum and dads, and some of my work are looking at those projects or those people reinvesting capital back into their homes to make it bigger so that their adult kids can come back and live there and help support the family, and they're still looking out for buying their first homes as well. Yeah, so I think Pukekohe is another one that's on the rise too. There's some parts like Inotahu and Papatoe, the Kaingaora, are looking at these. It's all where the Housing New Zealand sites are. That's where they taking out these 900 metre square sections and then trying to fit in some medium density around that to get people to buy and move in.
So would that already be an issue? Because, you know, when you said that, it's where all the Housing New Zealand places are. Some of these people have been there all their lives.
And it has been an issue, because especially us, we whakapapa to some of these areas too, and if somebody relocates us, we're not, you know, we put up a big fuss, you know, that was, you know, our neighbour there, we've been neighbours for 40 years, we planted that tree on the road there, and all those sorts of stories are coming up. So Kaingaora is trying their best to relocate the people back to, if not on the same street, but very nearby. And we've heard stories that some are quite happy moving back to the area, and they thought that they were going to lose the connection to, you know, all those people that they lived next to for many years, churches and all that community.
Because their whole life is based in that area, you know, like especially for the our parents in it, because they're so masangi to go to the.
That's right.
You know, they have the Palisas here.
Doctors down
there.
The
down
shops,
there, you know.
No, there's still some cases like that, but because there's no longer Housing New Zealand, as you know, it's now Kaingaora. Which is the Housing New Zealand, former Housing New Zealand Kiwi Build, and then HLC, which was that master planning group out Hobsonville. So that's all under now the Kiwi Build umbrella, which sits underneath the ministry. But yeah, so it's all those sites. And it was also, you know, some of these sites, I think I might have heard last time, was 50% of the sites will probably be Kiwi, 25 might be Kiwi Build, 25% might be social housing, and then the other 50% might be private, you know, that they sell out to private. And then 25% social housing, the other one's Kiwi Build. So there's I think there's reshuffling of that percentage. It used to be a third. But it's just how the market plays, because everything the market dictates how everything is around the housing there. So a lot of professional couples that I talk with down in Mangere struggling. There's some that have bought into it, and you know they're quite happy. We know that medium density or starting to live vertically, that's the way of the world at the moment. That's the freight train that's coming through Mangere. If you don't get on it, you miss the boat. You know what I mean? So that's the encouragement to a lot of these young people, and also to try and get their parents to release some equity. So some real, you know, the high flux of the immigration status that we have as well, and those challenges also. And so, yeah, our generation's got a lot on at the moment, and we've got to make our move. Otherwise, we possibly may miss the boat.
You know, you were talking about. Sorry, I know, staying on this topic, but you know, you say the way the future is like we're going vertically. You know, the more, especially in places like Mangu, and that, is there a fear that you know you hear about over in America, where there's the projects in that? Is there a fear that this could possibly happen with that?
Yeah, there is a big fear that.
Because you're putting all these people into this one space, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fear around, you know, if you're buying private and then it sits next to some social housing and stuff, there's a fear that happened, and then crime, kids hanging around, and I don't know how they're going to deal with that too. I look at what they've already done, Kiwi Builders done, Kaingaroa have done over at Hobsonville. Have you guys been to Hobsonville?
Yeah.
You guys looked at all those new houses side by side.
Yeah.
And that could be the model that's going to be, Māngile might look like that in the next few years. So.
Well, what do you think about that model? Because that model is exactly what Zai's talking about with the projects, the projects kind of thing. Because, you know, it's nice because it's new, but what happens 10 years from now?
Yeah.
What's that going to look like?
Yeah.
Unless, I don't know, I've got this thing about having entertainment hub in areas like that. Like you need a place where people can go and commute, you know, and commune and like have coffee, or you need those kind of entertainment hubs. Maybe a bar.
What did you think of that area?
Oh, so we were up at, so we were up there on Saturday. Or we went up to Whanoapai. And so we went to go to see one of our boys. But then the Whanoapai, like I've been up to Hobsonville as well, but like it does look really nice. But the thing about up in Whanoapai and Hobsonville is that if you look at the people who own the houses, they're all Palangi or Asian. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I know that would be different if they had the same structures in Māngile. So that's the. I think that's the big difference with me, is because they've. Hey, look, you know, you said there's a big entertainment area. If you go to Whanoapai, you're going through, and there's all this bush on the side, and then it just opens up, and first thing you see is like there's a countdown, or there's a BP,
a warehouse.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and you're like, oh, this is like, you know, this how, you know, this is how it's supposed to. But they've got all the factors there. You know, you've got young professional Palangis or Asians living there, and that I don't understand how you can take that and try and make it work somewhere where the economic, you know, structure, or, you know, where the money is, and
there's also the you know, people that buy houses for investment. Like, are you really gonna invest anything in those type of homes? Like, will it be? Will the value of that home go up?
Yeah, and the other thing too is that whatever their approach in Hobsonville was, it's not going to work over in Mount Roscoe or Māngile.
Right.
It's just the culture's different, the dynamics is different. So they are looking at doing, like you say, a lot of some of those entertainment areas and some of those public community spaces too.
Yeah,
and they know it's a Pasifika dominated area, so a lot of it's community spaces, and that's where the youth might start to concentrate on the youth, where they might respond to some of those spaces, and I think there's a talk about the light rail going through there and then
on the way to the airport,
Mangere Townsend, and off to the airport.
But you know, Mangere Townsend, they've got their communal hub inside that mall. When they do the exercises, everyone comes in the centre there, and so that's a thing.
Yeah. So they're gonna. Well, the thing is, it's really hard for Kaingaroa to give them a new town centre, because a lot of those tenancy are owned by people that live overseas. So they can't. They can't fix the place up without the. But there is. I don't know how they negotiate that. But so a lot of those tenancies are owned by Inkias, and they live, offshore.
Yeah. I'm just thinking.
But it's really run down at the moment, the Mangere Township. It needs a new fresh
It
look.
looks like it's still the same as it was built.
Like, the energy's there, but like,
Yeah.
But it's just-
the people that keep that place
That's
really
right.
thriving.
Yeah.
But I think it needs a new makeover, especially if you're going to have all these new housing stock around there, and you got the rail coming through there. And so interesting things too. And I think they're still learning. I think Porirua is another place that's getting what Mangere is getting at the moment. There's a lot of PI people in that community, and so they're getting a lot of that kainga rubber stamping going on. But I think Mangere being the first of the Pasifika approaches, they'll probably have a lot of what you call it'll come to me when you when you trial something, trial and error.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
With
Yeah.
Maangele, and then other communities benefit from the mistakes that are made there, and
then
looking at the percentage of people there and how these spaces working and what's the youth saying, because that's right, the youth is probably critical. We've got youth suicide rates at an all high, and PI and Māoris are right up there. So it's and that's my topic around the PhD will be around the sort of the more psychological stuff. How do we get people to enjoy their spaces? Because in ancient times, Polynesians were really connected to their whale. It's in our oratories. If you hear an oratory from a Matai, it's always whale this, whale this, whale this. Famous proverb is malu whale, malu fafu. So it means if you're stable in your house, anywhere you go outside the house you're stable. So, things like that. And this is the thing that I go on about with these modern ideas that our ancestors looked at way back. It still can be adapted to today. And I think that's probably a good approach for some of these houses in Māngili, because if you look at a typical village in Samoa, we're really proud to sasa the vau, look after our church in the Malay. Our home is always spotless, and the rocks are painted white, and colours are thriving, and there's a sense of pride and sense
Having
of
a garden now is not having a garden, looking after the garden outside the house.
Yeah.
We were sustained. We sustained. When up the hill was our whakuanga kalu and wha'i and
the problem you said about out west, people are busting down their homes and putting free townhouses, and like you said, you're gonna wake up in the morning, open the door, and your neighbour's right there. That's all driven by people wanting to make money. I mean, so it's that drive that if this is gonna happen everywhere, then we can't stop it unless that drive goes away. So what's the answer then? We've got to change those incentives.
Well, it might start from the top as well, the council and stuff like that. Not too.
Well, it's the whole the housing
zones.
The housing thing. How there's the reason why that's another problem that's connected to the reason why average house price in Auckland is 1.1 million, because the prices keep rising. That drive to build as many houses as you can in one plot, so you can make all that money, because the prices up. If the prices were down,
because now's the time to make the money out of it.
Exactly. So they're gonna do it. They don't care if the house touches the other house next door. They don't care, because the price is up. The price is real high. The price comes down, then there's probably no incentive to do that.
And everybody, this attitude of everybody's kind of doing this now. This is mine. This is mine. I'm gonna. There's no more community. You used to kind of look out for your community, the back, and they look out for you and your kids were able to play on the. Nowadays, it's just everybody's so protective and so they should. But quite a dangerous world out there at times too. So,
but it tells me also as a money thing, not a people thing. It's not because there's houses and too many people. It's because people know that You know, people got too much money. They can buy. That's why the prices are going up.
Well, unfortunately, it's not the people that should be getting the houses. It's people that have the money for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they've, and the other issue is like if they buy these, these plots of land, I think the government or whoever local government will find it as a plus because they're saying, hey, look, we've added another 3 houses to the numbers that we promised that you were going to get. We said we were going to get, we're going to get X amount of houses. So in a way, the numbers look good, but unfortunately, it's not good for either community, for morale, or for your next door neighbour that's going to have to open this curtain and look at 3 different other people in different houses. Because I'm finding that now. There's a house that is on the opposite street, but I can open my window and look, and there's someone up. I can see the person upstairs. He's looking at me. I'm looking at him. I've got a new T-shirt on, walking around. Well, I'm just saying, it must be so difficult for you because it's a really tricky situation where
and it was really heartbreaking to hear, and it just reminds me of the story about those people that the tsunami went through Papatoe, and so there were some damaged houses there. But then we also heard the news the next couple of days that there were some people that went to those damaged houses and said, "Look, I'll buy your house for."
Yeah,
so
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
That's where. That's where this greed for money comes in. But yeah,
and feeding on the vulnerable.
It does dictate what's going on at the moment too. I mean, if you had the chance to build a house, would you build 3 houses on there to start making money? That's the question. You have to ask yourself too. So, yeah, I approached my landlord at the house where we were staying a few months ago. I said, look, my wife and I might be interested in this house. We might be at the position to buy it. He goes, oh, okay. He's a really nice guy, Kiwi guy. He goes, okay, well, in November I'm looking at possibly at that option, but we'll give you the first point of call. We'll talk to you guys first, see how you guys going. And then he said to me, and I think he might have talked to both my neighbours at the time, he said to me, oh, so Lama, you're doing an architect, are you thinking of shoving 3 houses on this? Because it's about 600 metres square. I said, no. I didn't think about it. All I thought was, just want to get my foot in the door. I want a nice... Yeah. My son's been pulling my leg and said, Dad, it would be nice if we bought this house, bowl it, and put something nice on it. But I didn't think that I was going to possibly shove 3. But then the light bulb went off because, so what have I done?
Yeah.
Everybody's making all this money when they get the chances, so what have I done?
Yeah.
But I think he was saying it in a way that the neighbours having their own house on their own plot of land, they didn't want to see all this
3 houses and
3 houses shoot
door,
up 2-story, block all the sunlight and all that sort of stuff. They didn't want that. And they were older generation too, so they didn't want a lot of noise of heaps of kids, and which I thought, that's fair.
And you think about all the people that have that same idea and don't care about the 2 neighbours next door.
And meanwhile, they live on a separate plot.
They're going to go somewhere else.
That's the...
And it's so...
Well, they see the money, but it's about the...
Yeah, so it's a tough spot to be in. It's... first is getting into a house, and then what do you do with it? There was another nice plot of land. It was about 400 metres square on Coronation Road. Where the shops are in Mangere Bridge.
Mangere Bridge, yeah.
No, that first roundabout down the bottom there. Then you go further down, like you're heading towards the beach, there's a gas station down there.
Yeah, the gas one, the GAS. Yeah.
Opposite the gas station, there was a couple that had a 400 metre square in front of their house. And they lived on a nice architecturally designed house. And they were selling the 400 metre square home section in the front of their house. And we used to live a couple of houses. We rented a couple of houses down there about 5 years ago. And the same couple talked to me about, hey, Lama, what do you feel if you designed us something really nice on this piece of land here and sell it? Do you have any clients that want to buy a piece of land? And I said, well, stuff the clients. I might be interested. Because we might want to build, I thought, okay, well, I was thinking that maybe 750K just for this 400 metre square.
Yeah.
And I thought, and then my mind was going, Yeah, well, that's what it was. Because anyways, but it's the money.
Yeah.
He was thinking about. He was greedy for the money.
Yeah.
So I said, no, I'm sorry, and I don't think I have any clients that can afford a 400 meter square undeveloped section for 750K. 3 years later, to a few months ago, they put it on the market, and we moved away from that area of Mangere Bridge. And then I saw it advertised on Trade Me. So I went and knocked on their door and goes, oh, have you guys sold here yet? And he goes, no, we just gave it to the agent, and the agent has now, we've got no say about the price that the agent has put the section on. And he goes, oh, so how much is this, is the agent putting? 580K for just the section, and then you've got to spend another 100K on getting the services and getting it subdivided. So all in all, 400K was just under $700,000 for that 400 meter square section that's undeveloped. But in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so 700,000. If I design and build something, it's 300,000 just for me, my wife, and my son. That next year will probably value at 1.5. So I would have made 300K or something.
Yeah.
That's how my mind was working.
Well, that's what's happening. That's what's happening everywhere right now.
And then my wife said to me, and I said, there's just no way. You saw how my parents were, asking them for some money for a deposit. There's just no way we can afford it. I said, why don't we try and buy the land? We move back to your parents, buy the land, pay the mortgage off the land, and then stage 1, and stage 2, koe.
Yeah.
But you still need an initial deposit for that. But yeah, if you crunch the numbers, especially for that area too, it's right next to the motorway.
Yeah.
It's a Mangere Bridge here,
So I know the council brought up that unitary plan, no, for high density.
Yeah.
Because they identified there's going to be more people coming to Auckland, so they need more houses.
Yeah.
So if you can fit another house in your backyard. Hey, that's what unitary plan is about, and developing apartment buildings around public transport. That's why I see a lot of new apartment buildings going up next to the train station.
Newland's a perfect example of that.
Newland, Glen
Yeah.
that big one in the
Oh yeah,
corner
that's
there.
right. Yeah.
Going from
back of the cemetery.
Yeah, the back of the yeah.
Yeah, it's a big massive building.
Yeah.
Is it an apartment?
Apartment building.
or-
Yeah.
Apartment building, yeah.
Is it social housing? No. Is it
Don't know, I
paying
think
all
it's
or just private? No.
might be private. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, it's funny because if you haven't driven through there in ages, I remember just looking, like, just being at the lights, and I looked on the left, I was like, it's like Jack and the Beanstalk or something. Someone just going to eat some beans there, just all sorts,
Even bottom of Lincoln Road, when it hits the point, Lincoln Road and Swanson Road, the big apartment building there next to the police station,
Oh, yes.
on the corner, right there. Yeah.
But that's, but that's, I guess that's the future, eh? And, like you said, we've got to try and,
You got to get on it.
yeah.
Yeah. We drove down to Huntly just to have a look around.
Yeah.
Some of the sections there, and I was quite interested in Huntly for a bit. And I thought, nah. So I've been looking really hard at Mangile, trying to find a small section I can build a whale on there. I came across another section out, Ihumatao, Ihumatao.
Yeah.
But then that's got a lot of spirit, my Holy Spirit's flying around there. I thought,
I don't think you want to
I
think you want to run the risk on that one. There's going to be a few protesters there, mate.
But interesting,
Yeah.
there was a section at Ihumatao down one of the driveway that has a dead end. Because it's kokero o mauli ngā ngofu ngā, obviously from generations way back. And there was a section at the back, it was right next to the estuary. And I thought, oh man, that's really nice. But it had a massive manhole in there, so a lot of the service. But it was being sold in, I think, about 400K. And it was a 600 meter square. But anyways, and then the agent, Ray White, one of the agents for Ray White, said to me, look, Lama, we've had I've taken some Indian clients down here, and all the Maoris that, cause there's a couple of Maori boys in the front there were abusing the shit out of them. Yeah, and this guy, the Tonga guy, was Willie Baia. He said to them, he's don't worry about it, just come. And so they walked behind, and I'm thinking, man, this is like a customary land, like in Samoa, you're selling there.
Yeah.
So it's going to come with some attachments there. If it's not in this world, it might be in the spiritual world.
Yeah.
So they took the inkia there, and he probably got abused. But anyways, I thought, so why do I allow kikilo? I just want to have a look. It was summer, I had shorts because galope. So I had shorts up to here. I was walking in, I saw the same two guys that the thing was talking about, they had a tattoo here and they were really... So I said, hey, bro. And they were really receptive.
Yeah.
Oh, bro, I just want to have a look at that land. Yeah, go in. So I had a look around. Oh, nice. Oh, nice. Then I walked around and I just thought, man, these poor people, these are land that belonged to their ancestors. So they only want somebody that would really appreciate it, or somebody Maori. So I said, oh, man, how come you guys are selling the land? He goes, one of the Palangi guys ended up with it, and now he's flogging it off. He goes, I was like, you interested? Well, yeah, I am, but us, we're really careful about, our whenua and taking the thing on, because, I understand it. We had an Indian guy that came around and said, and then I just walked to the car and I said, see, bro, so it was, you understand their connection to their whenua, makulanga vapenga, but and then I heard there's a Mikia port further up the road on it was a nicer section, more clean out, but it's the same road where their maraias.
Oh, okay.
No, it's just interesting,
Protocols and different, the way we approach things, eh?
And yangai kakanga, because obviously if you know Ihumata and their history too, man, it was very, very sad times for that people. And then you got Fletcher coming in, trying to develop their home and develop homes on their where their ancestors are buried and all that sort of stuff. So,
where's that story at now? I heard the government. They buy them out.
Yeah, they get the land back. So they're pretty much handing it back to them, eh?
Yeah. So that's the only patch of green that's on. If you look at Mangere from the area, it says, "What's that green? Oh, that's Ihumata."
Yeah. It's the only last piece of. They won't have a house on it. Yeah. Oh man.
So now I'm just maybe looking at apartments and.
Oh, okay.
Oh, gee.
Just the way it goes. It's just.
The thing about apartments for me, like I don't like that paying the body corp. It's like you own it, but you're still paying the rent.
Some of them go 50K a year, on that.
Yeah.
But I'm looking for something that's quite in between town and here, so it's good for work and commute to work and back. And but obviously you want to have your foot in the door and your community and things like that too. So so body corp can be. I don't know what these Balangans
they just find ways to just you might. It's not like Samoa. It's funny because when I was saying to one of the guys, one of those at work, I said to him, "Oh man, we're thinking of selling, but because I've gone attached to that area in my house." And then he goes to me, "This isn't Samoa's." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Samoa, that's your family house. That." Where your house is, that's your that's you for the rest of your life. Over here, you don't own that. The government owns that, man. And I went, hey, well, you got to look at it like that, And I thought, you're right. It's not. I can't. The government can come in at some point and say, I'm going to take this off you.
Well, the Queen can.
The Queen. Yeah. Well, you're paying rates to that. Not, but in Samoa, where your, whatever nguu and whatever that your family land is, that's yours. So, and I went, oh, So that was kind of me saying like, yeah, I can sell my house. Yeah, lucky, but yeah. But, I guess that's the kind of attitude we can have in Samoa, but you can't have this. Yeah. SSR rules, yeah.
Whereabouts is the office? Is it in South, your office?
Yeah, so I work from home.
Oh, okay.
But I've got an office set out in a sleep out at the back. I used to have an office on Pitt Street.
Oh, yeah.
I co-shared with another designer. And then, it's just easier and more affordable. Low overheads, just doing it from home. So I mainly work from home. But interestingly too, because I've got another colleague that's interested in double teaming for some of these consultation, and we might look at an office maybe in town. But we'll see. We're looking at sharing the work and then just outsource graduates and other people that might want to do some extra work.
Hey, Cameron.
Outsource is, that's the way to do things. It's
it's
it's not sustainable for me to do what I've been doing for the last 13 years, and that's doing the whole process from A to right through. Now it's just it's okay, and I've got a young fella too that's looking at me for my time with him, and here I was sort of slavering over the weekends and late at night. It's not a healthy lifestyle. Sitting there eating chocolate biscuits and drinking V drinks, just to stay awake.
This is time consuming. And when I was doing private jobs, like outside or full time work, it's hard, man. Like you say yes because you want some extra money or you want to help. But then you don't think about you finish your day at work and you come home and I got to do this.
That's
just like building all day and then going home and building again.
And then this thing with your mental well-being it should be looked after, and that's a word that some of us starting to, because we used to ignore that stuff. We used to think, we just have to harden up and do what you have to do. But man, there's a few. I've had a few friends too that kind of, and then they end up doing things that they regret.
Yeah, that's right. And it's not good for the person you said yes to do the job for.
Yeah.
Because then you're tired, and then it takes. Focusing, it takes longer.
Yeah.
And they're asking for it. And
the phone's
that's
ringing.
right.
Oh, sorry, I was at a funeral. I thought you were at a funeral last week.
You know how you're talking about mental health. We had, it's funny because we always seem to always comes back to mental health with our guests. We had, because it was like we were talking with Marcus last night, he had lost a cousin to suicide.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like you said, like back in the day, it was quite taboo to talk about, saying that you weren't, mentally feeling well, or, like you're saying, like there's things like the word depression, was like, suddenly just hard enough. Like you said, that's the, that's always been the attitude. Nah, it's just soft, But now it's really the cool thing about us Pacific Island men and women is that we acknowledge and we're talking about it openly, because that's all it takes is just a kind word, or just a hey, are you okay? And
especially our youth.
Yeah.
Because man, they at that stage, they don't know how to talk about it. So it just bottles up until pop.
Yeah.
And they're doing something,
And it feels like they're exposed to much more now. Like, 'cause, online bullying is a real thing. Social media sets a standard which is, for most people unattainable. You're like, you've got this your body image, or you've got this, trying to be popular or trying to get followers and that kind of stuff.
Self-awareness has really gone through the roof. Yeah, that's right. And
so it must be hard, because like you said, your son's 11 years old, so he's going to be, this is.
It all starts at home, and we teach him stuff, and we tell him, open up, son, please, just anything and everything, just really open up. And he's really appreciative of that. It means he can relax and be himself. And, there are ways to try and get him to strengthen his mind, in certain areas and stuff too. But it's okay to feel depressed because we're only human, and we were given these feelings to not so much to bottle in, but also to, to bring out and talk. But yeah, it's huge. The youth suicide is huge in our community. So, I mean, even using this platform to try and tell our young people it's okay to just talk about and say what you have to say, or say what's on your mind, and not be so guarded, so it's mum and dad's job to try and open up their kids too. I think that's probably really important as well. Just get them to be themselves.
Awesome, man. So what we're at the 3 hour mark. Just over, it's 10:30. So we started just after about 7:15. So there's another world record. It's funny because when we have, like, when you said how do we work, or what do you guys do, like, well, it always ends up like we lose track of time because we're just so like this is just a drink up just without the drinks. It's just a catch up or a talk. Because usually around the 2 hour mark there's a lot of slurring and someone turn on the music kind of thing. But that's what we love about this format or this platform, is that we get to hear about inspirational stories and people that we know that a lot of our Pacific Island people are gonna really love to hear their stories. So just hearing your story also, man, it is
pleasure to be here.
Even hearing it in long form.
Yeah.
Like I can jump on 551 and hear your 30-minute, 20-minute.
Yeah.
But no one can come on and hear you for 3 hours, 20 minutes. But it's it's in depth of what you already talked about.
And it's casual places. And it's relaxed atmosphere. There's no you don't need to dress up what you say. And I apologise to all our listeners if you heard me drop the F-bombs here.
Oh, no. You should have heard some of our early stuff. And we've had a lot of, and that's what we love about it, because it's not,
it's real.
It's not like you word guarded, It's real, and it's how we talk, if we stood here like straight backs and this, well, that's outstanding there. None of that rubbish.
That's not us.
Because if we were listening out and we're like, listen to these, your nah, man. I think our people that listen, they know us. They know us by now, and we wouldn't be real to ourselves. We wouldn't be real to you. So, man. Thank you for the journey. Thank you for making the journey.
Opportunity. Thank you for this platform too, man. It's great. Just I have to be honest, I didn't hear about the your network, but man, I'm gonna check it out. And
thank you very much. Well, it's funny because just to catch you, it's like you've lived free life. You've lived all these different stages. So it's gonna be amazing because they're gonna know about be inspired by that. So
and I always knew it was going to be a long one because of that, because you've lived these different lives through your through growing up and through your careers and that. So I knew it's going to be a good one, and it was real.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, it has been inspirational, and so I'm going to have to get a coffee on the way home.
Michael Lua is probably trying to ring me and say, are you with another woman, or you been gone for?
Oh, you'll have video evidence.
No, check it out.
The timestamp doesn't. This is 11 o'clock in the afternoon. There, right?
Google Maps. It says here it should take you 20 minutes to get home.
Also, thank you so much, Uso.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you, Lama.
Lama. How's it?
Hey.